GM, hello, and welcome to another episode of TacoBytes, your daily bite of Degen, episode number 350. DeFi Degen with the great David Rankin. How are you this morning, sir?
I am doing good, my friend. How are you? It's been a while.
It has been a while. I am well this morning. I just want to do a quick shout out to everyone that is joining us today via YouTube, second YouTube, Twitch, Discord, Telegram, and to our family over at Xenon as well, as we really prepare for pushing content on chain, and then to our entire Twitter family as well. It seems like that list is getting longer. I used to just say Twitter and YouTube, and now I just keep adding to it. It's, I wish there was one app where I could just like stream everything into one app, like a master OBS, and it would just put it out everywhere.
Yeah, like a Lord of the Rings type of thing, or one app to ring them all in, huh?
Yeah. At least I wish there was a wallet to do that.
Right.
One wallet to rule them all. And just some craziness there with wallets. I just, how many wallets do you have?
I don't know, because I kind of forget them all. I mostly play on EVMs.
Okay.
So I mean, I actually became a fan of Rabby. I don't know if you played with Rabby yet.
I have not played with Rabby yet. I know of Rabby. People keep telling me about Rabby.
I like it. And it toggles between Rabby and like MetaMask, and it has some really cool features. It has really good contract abilities to, like, it'll ask you questions on a new contract you're interacting with and be like, hey, here's a warning. Are you sure you want to interact with this? And so it actually throws up those warnings when you're interacting with contracts, which is cool, because then you go like, okay, you makes you actually think before you're executing your transactions, right? Which is pretty cool. Where, there are an occasional places where I have to go back to MetaMask and use MetaMask for something, but for like 90% of my activity right now, I'm using Rabby.
Okay.
And Rabby is made by the same people that did dbank.com.
Okay.
And so, like, if people are in the space of getting into DeFi, hopefully you've either heard of either debank.com or Zerion.io and are using one of those two to manage your funds. I used to be big on Zerion, but then I've moved over to debank over the last year.
I know Zerion. I've actually started to. I checked out the other day for the first time Dex Guru.
Yeah, I still have to check that one out. You were mentioning.
And then Dex Guru also then automatically links you to Zerion and a couple other analytics sites as well.
Interesting.
Dex Guru seems to be only one just ETH, but then it lays out some other stuff, and it's all about tokens.
And is that dex.guru?
I think it is. I just cleared out all my dex.guru.
Sweet. Okay. Yeah, I'll be looking at that later today then.
Yeah. We got that. Let's pull that up on screen. Verifying signing. So you're talking about Rabby. I use both JoinFire and Wallet Guard.
Okay. So JoinFire, does that do multiple blockchains?
Multiple chains, yeah.
Cool.
I talk about it a lot. I love it. I think I posted on it. They have a list of trusted D apps as well, so you never have to figure out what address you're going to. Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
So everything, Optimism, Arbitrum, and then Wallet Guard does this, the same thing, and they're building that out. I
love the dashboard on that on the left. That's really cool. The breakout on all that.
Yeah. I don't even know whose wallet I put on.
Right.
I don't. It's weird. I think I just like because I preloaded something, but yeah, no, Nansen and Block Explorer. Um, so this is a token, I think.
It looks like it's probably a token. It looks like it. So it has a little bit of a Dex Tools flair with it, and providing
Yeah,
you the information and all that.
yeah, some good whales, turtles, sharks. I don't even know. Yeah. Oh, rat teeth. Ha!
Yeah.
All right. There we go. Yeah. So, the what's hilarious is this space sort of started off a little funny, in the fact that we started talking. I was actually on the phone with a friend who had just got rubbed, by downloading a malware client. He got a job as a community service provider, as a community mod, and they had him download some program, and I guess it worked okay, and then I don't know if it was right away they did it. I don't know all those details, but loss of funds, that happens a
Yeah.
lot.
It sounds like it should have been on a separate PC if he's using Discord for activity that's not related to his own personal stuff.
Yeah. There's just so many, and one of the things that you hate hearing is he's like, I have a ledger, but I haven't touched it in a year.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that means his funds are just sitting there earning, right? Because I will tell you, if you're doing DeFi right, DeFi should be pretty boring.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
in my perspective, but
it should be.
Some would label me as a DeFi boomer, right? I'm the safe, conscious guy who's okay with the lower yield as long as my funds are good, right? But
Yeah.
I have like friends, who are the degens that are heavy hardcore degens where they want that 20% and they've lost 100,000 a couple of times. I'm not comfortable with that.
That may or may not be me.
I'm not comfortable with stuff like that.
Yeah. I think one of the worst things I ever did is, for like 2 years, yes, I pulled profits to pay bills and stuff like that.
We've all have.
But then I also filtered all my compounds into UST and Luna.
Ouch.
And then when Luna went, I was on a plane with no Wi-Fi, flying from Lisbon to London. And then in London, I was running across Heathrow, and my phone was blowing up about Luna this, Luna that. And I was like, heck yeah, another pump. And by the time I got to San Francisco, it was not a pump.
Ouch.
I realized it was not a pump. So one of the cool things that I like about it is this does show your in and out cost, sort of.
Okay.
And it tells you whether you're in the money, break even, or out of the money.
Really cool. Yeah, that is really cool.
And so this is sort of on my public wallet that I showcase. So it's like I bought ETH Arbitrum at 1629, and it's now at 1842. Yes, I only have 0.002 of it, but in the money.
Yeah, that's a cool. That is important in this space to be able to track that ability, because especially if you're doing transactions on a daily basis, it'll help you tax wise later on when you're going through your taxes, if you can kind of have an idea where you're at on a lot of that.
Yeah.
And versus trying to keep track of it mentally, or I know there's people that are doing Excel spreadsheets, so it just having tools like this are what make this space even better.
Yeah, and it does let you choose between the main, like the 8 main chains or 9 main chains, though everything in Phantom's probably going to be out of the money.
Right, especially with multi-chain bridge lately. Jeez.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sad with multi-chain. I have only verified tokens. I want unverified.
Well, we've come to terms. We come to terms with what we can't. we can't talk positive about any one chain because like a friend and I, because every time we do, the next week something happens on that to that
Oh man.
protocol or that chain. like recently, Curve recently had an issue, right?
Oh.
And just last week we were talking about how Curve is such a trusted protocol, and then never, that they're like it's been solid, and all of a sudden then you start hearing issues, and you're having to pull liquidity on various things.
Yeah.
You're like, huh.
There was a great. I put out a great meme that came out from my Slack group at my Dex. It was like I leave crypto for like a day, and we have like Viper 0-day failures. We have Curve failures, and like a handful of other things. Oh, and then we have like the SEC going crazy again with like Richard Hart and Hex.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I guess this is the saddest thing to see here with this wallet: inflow, outflow. It should be opposite, But
well, hey, dude, hopefully you got some good NFTs for that outflow.
I do love the aspect, the change between verified assets and unverified assets. How much my asset value changes.
Yeah.
To verified tokens. Oh man. There was a time, I think it was like 2 years ago, there was like a DDoS attack on CoinMarketCap and on Chainlink. So all the oracles were out of price.
Yeah, that's bad.
And like I opened up, and the wallet said, you have $14 trillion. And I was like, yes.
Well, that's not bad. That part's not bad. Did you take a loan out on it?
No, I did not.
Damn. You should have taken the loan out on it and got liquidated.
Yeah.
That'd probably been okay.
Yeah. What I was with one community at the time where people who had a little amount of token, they thought that they had just like overnight turned into multimillionaires. And you had $1 of the token before, and now and so they sell it, and they're like, I didn't get my amount.
Yeah, right.
That was the fun part.
Well, yeah, and in this space, if you became an instant millionaire, it's probably too good to be true.
Yeah.
And the real question is can you sell it for that?
Exactly. Like that. Like I had to do a civil case recently. We're helping explain that, like explaining blockchain assets. I wrote out this first paragraph, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. No person is going to understand what I said there in the shortest. I'm like, blockchain. And so I had to go back to like basics, like blockchain is an open book ledger, and had to go from there, what that was all about, so it was really interesting to see, and then they're like, oh, well, the asset says it's this much. And I'm like, yeah, but the liquidity is $1, meaning you can't get it. You can't get it.
What's amazing is, we say that, the velocity of speed and change in DeFi is so much greater than the banking industry, right? For how fast we're evolving. And not only that, but it's amazing on how much you can learn about the economy, so if there's a rule called the rule of 72, right? And if you take the current inflation rate, let's say like 3%, and you divide that into 72, it'll give you approximately like 24, 25, right? And that's basically the rate of time that it's taking for your purchasing power to decay over time to be half its value, right? So if you want to double it, same thing with growing your money, right? If you're growing your money at 3%, your money will double in the 25 years.
Yeah,
at 3%. By compounding it and whatnot. But the thing is what people don't realize is is that whole entire system and how money works, right? And how we have currency inflation, where we're increasing the amount of currency. which has been about compounded about 6.9% since like the 1950s. And yet, our earnings, if we were lucky, are growing at 4%. So you're losing at that 2.9, 3%. And this is what they're doing is the government has literally slow rugged us, right? We are losing our purchasing power every 25 years by half. And what's been amazing is being in the DeFi space is learning that and seeing that at a faster scale, because when you see the 20% APY or the 100%, it's because you're receiving a shit token many times. And all of a sudden you're seeing the token collapse being sold off. And it's very much like our dollars. As we get more dollars out there, those dollars all of a sudden get sold off and the value of those dollars collapse. And what I've noticed is, there's this passage in the Bible that says that there will always be poor among us type of thing. And one of the things that I've kind of come to terms with is what's funny is, or what's actually not funny, it's sad, is there's 10% of the world's population that own like 90% of the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, it's almost kind of like that short squeeze, right? It's like when you look at a whale wallet would be holding a majority of the tokens. And really that's what's keeping the value of the rest of the token out, because the moment they dump that wallet, it crashes the price, right? And so we have the same problem with the dollar, where we have all these whales, 10% of the population holding 90% of the money. But imagine if they distributed all the trillions of dollars in the system out to everybody. Everybody would be instant millionaires and nobody wouldn't want dollars anymore.
Yeah. Well, and like I've talked about this a few times. If we looked at the stimulus packages that were handed out 3 years ago, everyone got, $1,800, while the rest of the world, but 52 trillion was used, or something along that line.
Well, like 3.2 trillion went into the banking system, and it's sitting there as excess reserves right now.
Yeah. and yet they're still crashing.
They're picking and choosing who they want to bail out, right?
Yeah. And like if you had divided the amount of money and handed it out to the people, everyone in the United States would have gotten like $2.4 million.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And the aspect of that is, well, then all of a sudden milk would go to go from whatever price, and then all of a sudden a gallon of milk will go to $50.
Yeah.
And
and it's fascinating, and you actually start learning this by playing in DeFi and seeing how token values actually are holding the price because somebody's holding a large supply, and you see similar mechanics in the DeFi space that you see in the real world, and you just understand it at a whole different level at some point.
Yeah. And it's people see these numbers and I'm like, no, they're not sustainable.
No.
We're looking at Beefy right now, 1,070%. You're earning 0.67% daily. That's something where you get in and you get out.
On a high APY for sure.
Yeah, and when you're going in Degen mint, Degen LP pool hopping, you go and hop in these things for a few days, you pull profit, and you get out.
So here's the problem though, right? Like look at that pool right now. Now I don't know what the pool is because I haven't investigated it, right? But we're just looking at it. I assume that your ETH is being paired up with the platform token, right?
Yeah.
And that platform token is probably heavily, or in this case, it looks like this is USDC against the platform token.
Yeah.
But in many cases, if there's a high APY, the high APY is because of the platform token, right? And what happens is you have this equation of the change in supply over the total supply. And so when the total supply is very small and there's a large amount of tokens being issued, you're going to have a high APY because of the distribution rate versus the total supply. And then as the total supply increases over time, that the distribution rate becomes a smaller proportion of the total supply, and so the APY will continue to fall. But realistically, if you're trading a good asset into a heavily inflationary token, you're going to lose value and you're going to be drained of your good asset and be sitting on a bag of whatever the platform token is. So hopefully you really like your platform token if you're trying to chase those APYs. What's wonderful about Beefy is if there's a shit token that's underlying but then you still have the issue of what is your pairing that you're dealing with.
Yeah. And yeah, so this one is based off of Velodrome. It's on Optimism. No, I know nothing about it,
Yeah.
But
I don't deal with those pools anymore. Like I've been drained so many times and ended up with the token on a platform token that I'm not really sure I want. That like I'm pretty much like, okay, I will, if a main chain token, a second side chain token might be okay. I'm all about WBDC, a stable coin, or ETH. Key things, I'm down with the lower APYs of 4 and 5%, knowing that I'm getting and holding good assets.
Yeah,
that's where people see me as a boomer sometimes in DeFi.
Oh no, it will, like, it's one of those things where like I'm like that 4 to 12% range. That's stable. That's sustainable.
It's golden. Yeah,
and it's people, like, I meet people all the time. They're like, oh yeah, I have like 16 or 15 ETH that I've been like DCing into since it was like $300. And I'm like, well, what are you doing with it? I'm like, just holding it. I was like, you can just stake that ETH in like Rocket Pool.
Yeah.
And ETH go up.
Well, you can find like a tri-pool that's between two, 3 different versions of staked ETH to also, separate that. But like for me, like, so I'm actually looking forward to Uniswap's V4, and seeing what they incorporate and how that works. Right now, I'm a pretty big fan of the V3s, and I like playing with like wrap Bitcoin and ETH, and then basically, to me, it's like a better version of a bond. I get to clip the coupons and take the dividends off of the Uniswap V3s, and then and keep collecting fees off it. And usually I'll restake those back into the protocol. And lately I've been excited about there's a company called Threshold out there on Twitter that is doing TBDC, which is actually Bitcoin on chain.
Yeah.
And they recently, as of like last week, started allowing withdrawals on the TBDC token. So you can literally go back and forth. It takes about 2.5 hours to bring it back to Bitcoin. But I would say go to Threshold. Look at Threshold. I don't know what that one is. You'll see that one right there, Threshold Network.
Yep.
That's it. But they're doing TBDC, and so it's awesome to be able to see Bitcoin come on chain and off chain. It's still early. It just kind of launched back in January. It's actually this is actually a V2 because they originally came out of Keep, and I don't remember the other one, but they two different teams teamed up and created Threshold. I was in the previous project as a token holder of Keep, and then brought over to this, and I'm really looking forward to this just because I like seeing Bitcoin being active on chain. In DeFi, I'm a proponent of wrap Bitcoin, but unfortunately, wrap Bitcoin is by institutions. And so therefore you can't reclaim the underlying asset. You're basically dealing with the derivative. Back when you're dealing with TBDC, you can at least reclaim the underlying Bitcoin, which to me is huge.
Yeah. What's hilarious is I actually just left Threshold's Discord yesterday.
You just left their Discord?
Yeah.
Now, why'd you leave?
I don't know, because I quit paying Discord money.
Okay.
And so
you're limited to 100.
Yeah, so now I'm limited to 100, but I'm in like 150 Discord groups.
Yeah.
And so it was one that, like, I know it. I've been following them for a minute. I
like them, but I do have issues. I take up issues. I'm a fan of Liquidity. Liquidity by far is probably one of my favorite protocols out there, just because of the immutable nature of it, and that there's no DAO to mess with the protocol. Threshold has a DAO associated with their T token. That concerns me when you are in this space, because it means, okay, who's going to mess up my DAO and create a DAO, an issue with votes. People don't vote in the best interest of everybody sometimes, and that always concerns me long term. Talking to them, it sounds like they have a pathway to become like immutable and kind of detach themselves. I'm waiting to see that, before I put my own Bitcoin in there. I don't mind playing with other people's.
Yeah. I don't mind earning other people's Bitcoin.
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind taking people's Bitcoin. I don't mind using it. Like I like DeFi. I'll buy your Bitcoin off you. That's fine.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is the other thing is that they had another vote where they were talking about issuing some more T token for marketing purposes or for development purposes, and any time a team starts talking about issuing more of their token, to me that's just no. I'm in crypto because I don't like the fact of stock dilutions and stock manipulation of shares outstanding and all that. Like I want to know that what my total supply of tokens are when I invest in a project, right? And I don't want to know that you're going to dilute me.
Yeah.
and so
when they're no longer backed and going outside the original mint, that's we see this a lot with emission tokens. There's an emission period. What's really cool is we're starting to see longer and longer emission times. I think Savvy DeFi, I think they did 6 to 20 years.
Yeah. No, that's what it should be. It should be a slow system.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. So it's I will use it. I have a lot of hope for it, but there's still concern out there. But it's still an early space. So
yeah,
we need it though in the space. My biggest fear is because of DAOs. I fear regulatory capture over time. And it's just like if we do not get to a certain level, before regulation sets in, that regulation will come in and force these things to comply at some point. And that's my biggest thing is like right now, it's like, I talked to a congressman and I was telling him this, about, he wasn't congressman yet at the time yet. He was running for office, but I was telling him about liquidity. And I'm like, yeah, there's a protocol out there that lets you borrow against your ETH, a 0.5% origination fee up front, but with no interest. And he's always seriously. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, and it's a protocol. Like nobody can shut this down and they don't understand that yet. I'm like, that is like huge.
That's why I'm liking Savvy.
Yeah.
They're doing sort of the same thing, but they're picking the stable pools on like Yearn, Taurus, and Beefy. And so you deposit, you can borrow against that. The yield you're earning pays off your loan. And since it's pegged to a synthetic token that fluctuates with your deposit, it doesn't liquidate.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. It's very cool.
And I helped them with partnerships with Beefy. They're doing with Trader Joe. They just held a huge space with Arbitrum. They launched on Avalanche as well. They had some hiccups on Avalanche. They launched on Avalanche the day that first time that Avalanche went down. So
full disclosure, I'm actually friends with people on that team. So I do have some exposure to it. But yeah, I'm very familiar with it. I have not taken out, I haven't deposited anything in there, but I have bought, tokens and underlying assets and provided liquidity on some
for Savvy, Avalanche. Savvy. Oh yeah.
For Savvy and Arbitrum. Yeah, I mean, obviously I was trying to get into the Avalanche. Unfortunately, there were some issues with that, and they decided that it was better to go onto Arbitrum instead of Avalanche, just because the volume was going over there.
Yep.
I love Avalanche. Unfortunately, yeah, it's just a lot of DeFi is kind of liquidity is shifted from there. Let's hope it recovers. Because so far it's a good blockchain. It's been working well.
Good blockchain. I've gotten to meet with like the senior engineers from Avalanche, senior BD. When hearing about their roadmap, they're talking like layer 4, layer 5, stuff, and then we have like Aurora X, which is doing personal chains.
Well, I'm just a big fan of Trader X, I'm a big fan of Trader Joe over on Avalanche.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm my buddy and I, we are kind of like, yield maxis. It's all about yield. And so any platform that's going to pay me in USDC for staking their token, it's a pretty sweet platform.
Yeah. What one of the things that I really love about Beefy is that when new DeFi platforms come on, I'm like, oh, let's go see what that does.
Yeah.
It's a good launching point. I know I followed that trail for Soul Lizard.
Well, okay. So one of my favorite things about Beefy, and you should show this off while you have your screen up, is the single-sided deposits. When I'm talking to somebody new about crypto, because I run a crypto meetup, and if I'm telling somebody about DeFi, the first thing I'm telling them is single-sided deposits on Beefy.
Yeah.
Because the fact that somebody, and no, I'm not talking about single-sided tokens. I'm talking about being able to go in to a pair. So like go find an AVAX USDC.
Not even that. Yeah, like so I know it. Yeah, so like
I could go depositing with one asset.
Yes.
Yeah, right there. You can pick which asset
or wrapped ETH right there, and it zaps you in.
Yeah. Well, what's better is like, so for example, on Optimism, Arbitrum, Avalanche, or Polygon, you can literally bridge from Coinbase, send over USDC, and literally enter into a pool with USDC in most cases. Yep. And it will literally put you into the crypto pool, the position that you want, and give you exposure to the underlying assets. And then you can exit back out of USDC.
Yep.
And for accounting purposes, like, that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
You have the underlying exposure of the crypto assets while you're earning APY through the trading fees and the compounding and whatnot.
Yeah. You know what you went in with. You went in with $100.
Yeah.
And you're pulling out hopefully more.
Yeah.
How do you feel about like some of like the pre-stake pools that they build up and stuff like that, and like the Beefy token?
Oh, the Beefy token. Well, obviously Beefy is going through some hardships right now because of multi-chain.
Yeah,
they were using the multi-chain bridge for their Beefy, and so obviously we were required to withdraw that, and we're supposed to be sitting on Beefy right now. And from what I hear, if you have over a certain amount of Beefy, I think it was like 80 Beefy, they'll be minting your Beefy token to Ethereum. If you have less than that, it sounds like you'll be minted new Beefy to Arbitrum.
Yep.
And so the current Beefy token eventually is going to disappear, and they're going to be issuing a new token. So there is a little bit of rocky waters there, which was kind of nice because I actually withdrew from all my liquidity pools that I had with Beefy in it, because I actually had a few that were actually Beefy paired with other stuff, and because of Beefy's price going down, it picked up more Beefy.
I wonder what I have I wonder what vaults I have going on right now in my training wallet. So I'm like, there's just so much. People are like interested. They're like, how do you know so much? I'm like, I feel like I know so little. Oh yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. This one,
Well, okay. So I mean, like I was on Twitter like last week, kind of having a discussion, which I mentioned to you in regards to like retired pools. And I was like, yeah, but like, I hate when you retire pools because then I don't know my P&L because the P&L goes away. And they're like, well, would you be willing to like be charged like 0.01%, to maintain your pool? And I'm like, well, shoot, GBTC charges 2%. I'm like, yeah, of course I'd be willing to pay 0.01 for you to tell me how much money I'm making.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, the thing is like in these pools, like for me, I play a game with it. I mean, literally, like, if your token is topping out and you can go into a liquidity pool and sell out half of your position, knowing that you're at a top, and then all of a sudden it's going to start going down, trade back down, right? Like you're going to be dollar cost averaging it as it goes down. And then if you exit that pool, you're going to end up with more token. And vice versa. If you go in at a bottom with dollars and get 50% exposure, you're going to get the ride up. It's going to sell off as it's going up, and then you can exit with more dollars. There's absolutely games you can play. And so when they start retiring pools, I'm like, wait a second, you're messing with my game here.
Yeah. Beefy has always been has been a great partner, especially with what they've done for Moonbeam and for Stella Swap and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's, heck. And I don't know if you've seen like a huge bump in Moonwell.
No,
Well token because of their ties to Base and Optimism.
I actually have not played over on Base yet. I have not played
Okay.
on base. I got to go play over there.
I bridged. I think I bridged like let's just say $1 over. Because they had it really good, a really simple, just send to a contract and it bridges for you.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I assume you could probably send funds pretty easily from Coinbase. The
Yeah.
platform, right?
I think within the Coinbase DeFi wallet, they just turned it on to bridge over because one of the things that they were asking, they're like, mainnet is live, but please don't publish anything, forward facing until this date, and we're gonna all come. And you're like, you turned a chain on. You expect people not to do things on
Right?
it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm waiting to see what happens with Bald.
Oh man, so I heard that someone said that there was going to be a rollback.
Well, that's bad for the chain right there.
That's bad for the chain, and it was like because there was like a $24 million rug within the first 24 hours.
Yeah, but that's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, you're like, well, okay, so someone didn't do the research.
Yeah, no,
That's
you
the
know
worst
what?
thing you can say to someone too.
Yeah, we've all lost money in this space. It sucks to lose money. If you play with fire, I would say expect to be burned.
Yeah,
And because of that, I've been very cautious on how much money I put into any protocol. I'm very diversified, and so because of that, it's just like, yeah, it sucks to lose money, but I'm all about the decentralization and the immutableness of smart contracts. And I think
yeah.
that's an important space. And if we can start rolling shit back, I think we're going the wrong direction, which is kind of scary.
I agree with you. It's one of those things to where that the whole premise is built on the foundation of what happens.
Yeah.
You can't go back with an eraser and change something.
That's what that's what our trust is based on. Our trust is based on hey, if something happens, we know it's going to happen. We know it's not going to change.
Yeah.
And the moment we start erasing that trust, I mean, we start end up, not changing the system and being like the old system.
Yeah. It's it's sort of crazy. We have so much going on, so much building out. It's really crazy to see. I don't want to say bad things happening, but
there's
things
attack on all fronts,
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, and it's horrible to see.
Yeah. And like right now, one of the big attacks happening, between both SEC and decentralization, this has been a big topic the last couple of days, especially leading up to this, but Hex and Richard Hart, and
Yeah.
is that a can of worms? You're like, don't touch that with a 10-foot pole, or do we take Richard Hart out of, like, when are we able to take personalities out of protocols?
Yeah. Well, that is the trick. That's why things like Liquidity, it's like you have a marketing team, but realistically, you have to be able to step away from your protocol, and it has to be, so good on the programming level that you can walk away and it works autonomously all by itself. Where that you don't need to administer it, because if there is administration towards it or somebody who can change it, it can be manipulated and it can be taken over. Or they can go after you. So yeah, it's interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah. I had to, one of the things, since we're tied to Beefy, Stella Swap has seen a huge influx of, that compounding piece. And
Yeah.
it, like you were sort of saying, it brings in a lot of that stuff. Single-sided asset pieces, being able to enter and exit with one asset is amazing.
Yeah.
Being able to just stake one asset is also amazing.
Oh, that is huge too. Yeah.
Because you're earning more of that with single asset. Beefy provides that. We are not a commercial for Beefy.
No.
I just think that,
in fairness, I am a token holder of Beefy.
But I am a token holder. I hold 0.00 some, I don't know, amount. I know the team. I see them at conferences. They are out there, and they're always looking to innovate and build new stuff.
Well, so the only thing, like one of the things I brought up with Beefy is like, hey, I was bringing up the fact that I use them as a kind of as a portfolio management tool,
Yeah.
on a lot of levels for my liquidity. And I was bringing this up. I'm like, hey, you guys need to think more along my line of level in perspective, in my opinion. And the reason I said that is, there's so many liquidity pools and platforms out there that eventually it's going to get old with incentivization with tokens. Like you can only have so many liquidity pools and exchanges and all that out there before all of this stuff is so diluted that there's no more liquidity to deposit in a new liquidity pool. And the thing is it's evident just by Beefy alone that nobody wants the shit coins that these platforms are rewarding with. Otherwise, they wouldn't be using Beefy. So at some point, the reward mechanism is likely going to disappear in my eyes. Now that could be 5-10 years down the road, but when I see development, I think you should be developing for 5-10 years down the road.
Yeah. The development of 5 to 10 years down the road is one. That's how many block transactions will happen in that time.
Right.
And like all of the new layer 1s, all of the new layer 2s, you're just looking at ETH's roadmap, like they just pivoted, they were going to be working to make ETH faster, and now they're like, you know what? We're going to stay the same bulldozer, and we're just going to beef up our security and our settlement, and because we want everyone to use us as settlement.
Yeah.
And
it can always change over time, right? I mean, I think there's gradual progressions. Right now, ETH needs to be a little bit cumbersome and expensive to use because if it wasn't, people wouldn't go to the second layers.
Yeah.
And so we want to get developing the second layers out. And then once that is fully developed, then ETH could probably change that policy.
Yeah.
But there's obvious stages. And so somebody's obviously planning and thinking these things through, which is needed.
Yeah. As we're seeing more roll-ups, a lot of stuff in ZK stuff happening. There's just amazing, like just permissionless credentials as well.
Yeah.
And when I say permissionless, and I would love to hear your take on trustless and permissionless. So for me, permissionless is I authenticate who I am. I don't need any third party to verify, like, oh yeah, your name really is Player One Taco, but you're the first person to claim it, so it's yours.
Yeah.
So now I have that, and now that is my identity.
Yeah.
And so the trustless side is, I don't need a third party to do this for me. I can do that. Do you have a, when it's all at a contract level, I don't need anyone else's permission to transfer funds, and I don't need to rely on a third party to flip a switch or click the OK button.
Yeah.
Do you have a different definition of trustless and permissionless?
No, I mean,
or say it a different way.
No, I'm the same opinion. I like to be able to do my own verification. I'm really kind of perplexed because my viewpoints of DeFi have changed because I basically think that we're heading into a surveillance economy with DeFi. I have multiple ENS names. We all have multiple wallet addresses, or we should. It's the sad part is I was in a room yesterday and I was listening about some new privacy chain, right? And this privacy chain has all these VC backings and sound like it has some government backing. And I'm like, that's the one problem I have. Like the where we need a public chain is in politics and for large players. And unfortunately, I think the direction we're going to go is there's going to be privacy chains, but the privacy chains will be for the wealthy. And then the consumer class will be in the public chain that can be viewed, right? Yeah. Because the wealthy don't want the general populace to see how much money they have and where they're moving and what their money is doing. They want that privacy, but then they want to watch everybody else. to make sure that people are keeping their place. And so, you know, so I have an issue with privacy because like it's I mean NFTs,
Yeah.
I watch wallets. I'll admit it. People are like, when you tell somebody who hasn't been in DeFi, like, wait, you look at somebody's wallet?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, of course I do. I mean, like,
Yeah.
this is how we find out new projects and see where money's moving. And like, GMX, we found GMX, somebody and I, and it was through looking at some wall and going, hey, what's this project? Hey, let's look at this. Wow, look, this thing's paying consistently. Like, we can jump in and provide liquidity to this.
Yeah.
And so, it's I think it's a beneficial. Now the thing is that dangerous? Yeah, absolutely. It can be dangerous. It opens to a different world.
Especially as
But
we have more intelligent tools for easier user use.
right, exactly. But the thing is it good? I mean, like, I'm one of those people. I follow the Twitter feeds on Nancy Pelosi's moves for stocks, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, would I love Pelosi's trades to be on a blockchain? Absolutely. And do I think that every politician's trade should be on chain? Absolutely, because I think that would be fair and open policy, right?
Yeah.
And so part of me really likes that.
Their trades, but their blind trust trades.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
David, we got a hand up. I think that either want to ask a question of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're gonna I want to shout out to everyone on Xenon. John, I see you. Thank you for the lurking. Xkilla. You have your hand up.
Yep. Yeah, here we go. So it's actually pronounced Phil.
Okay, Phil.
Yeah. So the idea that you guys are saying that Ether too expensive for the gas fees and stuff, and it's, I just wanted to bring in something that I found something, but I don't know what exactly and how it works. I did, Taco, I did send you the website. Maybe you could give a synopsis real quick of what you think of that. That's all I have to really bring in. I saw this. It's I know it's not too old, but it seems like it's a too good to be true thing. But I don't know. It has to do with gasless transactions. Now I don't believe it's free, but they're able to reduce the fees on them. I don't know how that works. Like listening to you guys, I'm learning a lot always. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, Phil, always pleasure. So ethane.app, an efficient liquidity locker and universal gasless experience for ERC20 tokens. How it works. I don't know. David, have you heard of this?
No, I haven't.
Okay, then this is.
I usually just wait till gas is low.
Yeah, me as well.
But if you waited till gas is low and then could get it cheaper.
Yeah. That is sort of.
So I have a Gwei monitor on my browser. Like it tells me right now Gwei is at 28. And so I'll keep an eye on the Gwei, and depending on the size of the transaction, I'll wait until the Gwei is at a reasonable level when I'm doing transactions. Now, if you're aping into something and you're trying to beat people, then obviously that gets hard. I'm usually pretty patient in what I do.
Yeah.
And so.
And nothing's truly gasless.
Yeah. Right.
It's who's paying for it. And I will be honest, I'm not going to click on launch D app because I have red flags because the home, about, team, and how it works, those buttons do not work.
That's not good.
Like I do see all the other buttons working, it's one of those things where they just want to whether it's a bad scroll piece, Yeah.
I will comment to that. I don't believe that the website is fully functional. So, and I know the team that's doing this, but I don't know how I just don't understand the technical side of this.
Well, they could be doing it. They could be offsetting it through a token that they have, and then they sell some of the token and recover like through some type of pool, or they could be doing it with a side chain.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's having your own relay and node and server? Is that a thing where
Yeah, so there was another site that was doing that where they had their own node, and what happens is you would buy their token, and by utilizing their token, they would push the transactions on your behalf. And so
so they would wrap whatever token you bring in with theirs.
No, they would push their own transactions. So basically, you were paying with their token to kind of this one that I'm thinking of was more of an MEV system where they would push transactions and they would do it optimally because they would actually pay for the transaction. But I think you were buying their token ahead of time. On this one, I have no clue what they're doing.
So this one, it looks like it's more of an atomic swap. Just reading their first paragraph piece, it by involving the ERC tokens, the relayer consumes the gas fee. In exchange for this service, the user will compensate with the ERC20 token involved in the transaction. So that means if you don't have ETH, but you have Bob,
you're paying in Blob.
You're paying in Blob. So it's not a bad thing. Atomic swaps are amazing. I'm having to deal with an atomic swap issue right now myself with Boba. I hate Boba so much. I liked it at one time, but there's no way. Like, they gave you your initial Boba tokens for free, and then you go try to stake them, and then unstake. There's just a huge problem with their unstaking, and then it ate all of the Boba token I had for gas. And then now I can't transact in any way, shape, or form. So,
Well,
you can't get Boba token.
I have a perspective. I have a perspective on Ethereum that if you can't afford the gas, you probably shouldn't be playing over there anyways. You should be on Arbitrum, because if you're trying to do this,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, well, if you're trying to do a swap with another token, obviously you're going to be paying the cost and the other token. And if the other token, is only $1 and your gas fees are still $24, you're going to be paying a lot of that token So, I mean, it just makes sense to go play on Arbitrum or Optimism. And so there's so many other side chains right now.
Yeah. This one is the Boba L2. So same thing. They just use Boba as their thing, but no one has a bridge to Boba. And that's why I like atomic swaps within like Uniswap. Uniswap, you can switch from one token on one chain to another token on another chain. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Or swap for gas. We see that happening a lot more.
What's your go-to for a bridge right now? Because I was using multi-chain until just recently.
Multi-chain was my main bridge.
That was mine too.
Oh man, this is the funny thing. I loved multi-bridge, multi-chain. I loved it when it was AnySwap. And then our protocol switched to Nomad, and I was shouting from the rooftops that it was bad. DMs to Nomad, DMs, shouting on my team. And everyone's like, oh yeah, well, this is the new chain bridge because they just dumped a heck ton of money into marketing. And I'm like, this is going to be bad. And like literally the day before, I was yelling at the team. I'm like, we have to get off of Nomad. There's a bad broadcast. I don't know what it can be used for, but it's an open broadcast. And the next day, literally, oh, you can just put a transaction into that broadcast. And it will, it's just crazy.
So I want to say two things. One, you said you shouldn't be playing on a chain if you can't afford it. I might be an exception to the rule when it came to getting into crypto. I started with $300, and that was the last of my paycheck, and I went full time.
What year though? What year were you in?
A month.
Yeah, what year?
What's that?
What year?
This was 2019 in October.
Okay, but 2019, crypto was still really low. And back then you could, and gas was pretty cheap back then. Mm-hmm. So for a newer person now coming in at ETH at 1900 or something like that, like I would say it's easier to do on a second layer chain than come into ETH if you have $300, right? Like I would hate to see somebody buy.
I didn't even discover ETH until probably 21.
Oh, really?
Like, okay. I was so far. I was in Robinhood and all those things. I didn't have a great idea. But the second thing I wanted to bring up is how many people do you think get into this game, like you were saying, and do stuff that they're not supposed to?
Oh, I know. Oh, we all do. Well, but we got to give good reasonable advice, right? Like there's people who just made money on Pepe, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
So
I understand. There's definitely opportunity.
I just want to ask one more question about that Degen app. If that is like something else, is there any like pointers that you could send to me so I could pass it along? Because as much as I like watching people fail, I really appreciate when people succeed. And by fail, I mean I like when people trip and fall down, and then I'll go help them up, but not without laughing.
Yeah.
But it's just part of human nature. But what is there anything you could say that they did wrong that could have been done better?
Make up before I even click on their D app. Make sure all their buttons work. That
10-4.
I haven't even I didn't even go deeper than that. But we'll do that on a later date, just to take a look at it.
Education wise for new people coming in, how important is that to know?
Utmost.
Yes.
If your site does not work, why should I? And you're basically funneling me to push only one button. Then you're not giving me choice. You're sort of there's a way to do that by having only one button. If the other buttons aren't working yet, then don't have them there.
Well, I have a question for the person who's just talking right now. Have you ever created a WordPress page? Have you ever created a WordPress page? No.
Okay. I can't quite understand what you're saying.
WordPress is for web development, right? So here's the thing. It is so easy to throw up a website in 30 minutes that if your website doesn't fully look fleshed out, I don't want to trust it, right? Because I can throw up a website in 30 minutes. It would probably be good enough just off the front page to have you convinced. So I do not go off of anything that's
I'm not trying to defend that it's not working correctly.
No, I'm just saying.
In their TG, it has all their links, right? But the Degen.app is not highlighted blue, so you can't actually click on it. I had to copy paste it, so that might have something. Like maybe they're not fully done with it.
Yeah. That's just a general practice and general rule. I'm also really skeptical when I see affiliate links.
Yeah,
right.
That's like my other flag. But I mean, there's still sites out there that are decent with affiliate links. But I always have a question mark as soon as I see an affiliate link on stuff. There's things that you have to do in this space that create precautionary like signals to protect yourself in the space, because there's so many goddamn scams.
Yeah.
All right.
That is probably my biggest accomplishment.
I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, my biggest accomplishment is not losing funds. Right. Keep your money in this crypto. You'll succeed just by keeping your crypto.
Yeah, holding. Yeah. So one of the things, David, you talked about was the differences between V2 pools and V3.
Yeah.
What is your big push why you like V3 pools?
So I really like V3 pools because, one, if you go into a V2 pool, right, you have to have a split of 50-50 between the assets, right? So if you have an asset and you're going to go into a pool, like one of the pools I like is PaxG and ETH.
Yep.
And PaxG is basically one PaxG is pegged to 1 ounce of gold. So I treat that like a stable coin. And I like to pair that up with ETH. But the thing is now if I'm holding PaxG, I have to have equal amount of ETH. And so you have to have a lot more liquidity to be able to add into the pool on both sides of those assets. What's nice on a V3 and what I do is with the V3s is I'm typically looking at a chart, looking at a range in the chart, right? And we might be at the bottom of the range. And I noticed that, hey, I think it's like right now, let's say I think ETH is going to trade up against this other asset, or this other asset is going to trade up against ETH, one way or the other, right?
Yep.
What I will do is I will literally create a V3 that has that range. right? And I don't know, you could bring up the V3, bring up a Uniswap V3 pool if you don't mind.
Yeah.
We can actually walk it through.
And so you're wanting to go for a one-sided deposit, right?
Yeah. I'm wanting to go through a one-sided deposit. It makes the accounting and taxes look easy, right? Because I can deposit in, let it trade through the liquidity. And a lot of times I'll have it come trade all the way back down and then collect the fees as it goes through that entire cycle, right?
Yep.
And so like right now, I will admittedly say that I have pools that are ETH and wrap Bitcoin. You keep them a tight range, and then all of a sudden it trades through all that ETH liquidity into wrap Bitcoin, and then it comes trading back. In the meantime, you just picked up ETH and wrap Bitcoin, and I'm probably earning more wrap Bitcoin than some Bitcoiners are earning mining.
Yeah.
So I'm all down for that, even if it is wrapped, because I'm getting that price exposure, and let's not, we'll admit it, some of these people are only in it for the price exposure. So if, and then not only that, but I'm such a fan of the ability to borrow against this stuff in the future that I think it's huge potential. So yeah, so right here you can look at that range. Now move that whole thing to the zoom out a little bit. Click the zoom out button that you just had. Now move that whole thing to the right.
Yep.
Right?
I can then go one-sided.
Single-sided. So you'd be 100% ETH, and as the ETH went up in price, it would trade out into the PaxG.
Yep.
Right. And so, which is really cool. And then not only that, but while doing that, first of all, full disclosure, you do not want to do this with PaxG. I use PaxG in a V2. The reason you do not want to use PaxG in this situation is PaxG has a fee associated with it on swaps, and that doesn't work well with Uniswap V3s, right?
Yep.
So you do not want.
I'm gonna
use WBTC.
Like
use
a wrap BTC.
Yeah.
So that way, we go with this, and so, what we see here, I want to talk V2 and V3 just means version 2 and version 3, as they upgrade systems. I remember PancakeSwap V1 days, Well, I remember before PancakeSwap. So, but here, you see. So the way I explain this is, you see people set price range.
Correct.
And those are sort of like, Trader Joe says it's really good as buckets.
Yeah, I hate the buckets though. I really hate the buckets.
You hate the buckets.
It's just not as intuitive, and it creates so many little bucket NFTs in your wallet that it's just like, oh my God, this is not clean.
Yeah, I wrote this out. Oh my gosh. It was a total of nine pairs of 3, 27, 47 zero, like a number, and 47 zeros worth of NFTs.
Yeah. So I like to keep a wide range.
Yep.
And that doesn't work well on buckets.
It does not work well with buckets.
So I like to literally set my ETH and wrap Bitcoin in the pool and let it have a decent range so that I know it's always trading. I might make less in fees, but I'm kind of a stock dividend guy. So I'm like a set and forget. And I just want to know that, hey, every quarter I can come by, collect my fees, and then redeposit them back in. And it's a hell of a lot easier when I can set a decent range and just collect the fees,
Yeah, and Uniswap allows that. It's real simple by just clicking.
I don't do it that wide.
Not that wide? Okay.
No, I don't. I keep it in that bell curve that you see right there. And that bell curve is the concentration of liquidity in that range.
And you see what I like about it is it's a very good visual of you can see where people think the price action really is.
Correct. And you won't get rich off of it, but I'm happy to make 2 to 4% on ETH and Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, so I have assets that I want to hold, and I don't mind if they sell off, but so I have assets, and what I do is the assets that I'm just sitting in a wallet, I'll throw in a V3 and be like, okay, hey, if it starts hitting this price, start dollar cost averaging out of it, and go into ETH, and I don't have to watch it. It's not going anywhere. It's sitting in my smart contract, and it'll just sit there. But I know that once it starts trading in the range that I want, that it'll start making me fees, and it'll make me more of the underlying asset and more ETH.
Yeah.
So I really like it as a tool. A lot of people don't like it because of the impermanent loss that you potentially suffer versus just holding the asset, or it doesn't make a high in FAPY. But I mean, like, I'm holding these assets anyways, so it's just like,
yeah, might as well earn something,
yeah.
you know. And the underlying asset might turn into be a surprise unicorn.
Right. Yeah.
One of the platforms. Do you do anything on Solana?
I do not. That chain was crashing too many times for me to want to go over to it.
So okay,
I hear it's getting better though, huh?
I'm gonna drop. No, you probably already know this. It wasn't actually ever crashing. It was being the transactions.
There was stuff.
The term is pause, but the chain was just being slowed down so much that transactions were timing out because they wanted to catch up with the amount of transactions that had processed.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that Solana has on it is the transparency of who the next 100 validators are. So those are being attacked constantly. They put in, what they did is one of the upgrades they put in was ballooning payments. So if one address keeps attacking, sending, fake transactions, the gas slowly goes up. And because the transaction fees are so small, that it takes a minute, but it then becomes unprofitable for people because they weren't succeeding. They were just trying to do like DDoS attacks on the chain, and the chain would balloon up in a spot and have so many transactions that it had to slow everything down so those transactions could all be processed and all be marked not good, not good, not good, and that takes time sometimes, so like, it takes 4 hours to catch up to 30,000 transactions.
No, I will admit I still have Solana as the token. So it's not completely written off my book, just because I have a feeling there will be some use there.
I'm
an EVM. I'm mostly on EVM, so just because Ethereum's where I started off in DeFi.
Yeah. I wanted to go to this just because one of the things that I love about it that I wish Uniswap would integrate.
Yeah.
Let me see. I might have to connect.
Man, I've heard of it a long time ago.
Yeah. Is that it gives you a lot of good statistics when you're putting in when you're making a V3 pool. So that's one of the fun things with it, I think, is that it shows those daily numbers. It shows what your leverage is on a position and allows you to.
Or are they doing leverage liquidity pools?
So not leverage liquidity pools, but they're doing it in one aspect of it. So it is, let's see here. So like if I don't even know what I went into, but USDC and Sol.
Okay.
So I can pick my custom.
That's cool. Yeah.
And from there, I can set those ranges, but then it shows me my estimated 24-hour yield, my deposit ratio, and it shows the leverage, compared to a constant AMM.
Yeah.
So I'm earning 30 times the amount because I'm having a narrower range.
That's cool.
And same thing, if I think that the price is going to go up, I can go to that one-sided piece,
So there is a tool to help with that for Uniswap, and it's called uniswap.fish. I don't use the platform to enter into the pools, but I will use it to look at ideas or thoughts on various potential liquidity pools.
All right.
So you can select which tokens and enter the amount, and then what it'll do is it'll actually give you a breakdown, and it'll actually show you people's existing pools and show you kind of how they're doing.
All right. When I'm teaching people about liquidity pools and they want to see something from not a one side, but they want to actually sort of see, I have them I suggest to them to do USDC and USDT pools.
Yeah. No,
because then you have, $10 on one side, $10 on the other, and you can actually sort of see where the market is going. People want more USDC or people want more USDT. And you don't have to worry technically about that impermanent loss unless something
correct.
depends.
No, absolutely. No, that's the safer way to start stuff off.
You know, that way, I think, you know, a lot of times with staying out of leverage, learning how something works, an easy visual when you're dealing with exotic pairings, you know, and I put ETH as an exotic, even though, you know, it fluctuates.
Well, because you can get major and permanent loss between two volatile assets. So even, you know, the next step up is doing a stable coin with another asset. Yeah.
And that's if you think that asset's going to be around for a minute.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Or you might have two tokens that you don't care which one you have. You like them both, you know?
Yeah.
And so if it trades one way, you'll have a lot more of one side and less of the other. And so, yeah, let's see how this, you know, all right.
Yeah. So pretty
interesting.
Yeah, similar style play. You can pick the amount of money to put in there, and it'll give you a range. You can set the ranges. It'll show you people that have already had pools that are created and what they're making.
Yeah.
So I don't use this to deposit, but I use it to play with different pools to kind of get an idea of where it might be at.
Yeah. And if you go with the full range, yeah. Full range of USDC.
Earnings gone if you do the full range.
Yeah.
You make so much less.
Yeah.
But no. I mean, it's been really nice, like watching some of these pools, and it's just like, you know, I kept a stash of ETH, you know, up to this last cycle, all the way up to 22. And this year I'm actually deploying it because I feel comfortable enough to, you know, deploy a decent sized bag of ETH in some of these liquidity pools and actually earn on it and feel like, hey, I know this stuff well enough where I know I can keep this and manage it and actually make money on it now.
Yeah. And you know, we see there's just so much ETH just sitting there not doing anything, and I feel bad for it. If that makes I feel bad for the ETH. You know, not necessarily the holder, because it's like either like they're thinking that like, oh, I have enough, I don't need to do anything, and I'm like, but you could be doing like
you could be earning with it.
You could be earning like you're already the 1%, but you could be in the 0.5% if you stake it and just earn on it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and so it's weird teaching, you know, I managed a couple people's money for a long time, managed their portfolios and stuff. And I mostly did LP pool hopping for them, you know, on those stable sides of things. Even when like they had me diversify into a couple, like, you know, you know, what's the word? Incentivized pools.
Yeah.
You know,
that's the best way. If you have capital, just keeping in stable coins and just earning rewards and then compounding the rewards through other things.
Yeah. You know, there's so many, like, you know, like we have Savvy, one of the ones that I'm using,
well, and here's a little bit of hope, right? Like now, like we're seeing APYs go down and people are like, well, why is this not making a good APY? And a lot of it is because like we've seen volume fall dramatically, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like, you know, it's like, okay, if I got this pool that's earning this now, you know, I know that when volume picks up in this space, that it's going to come back.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my hope's at long term.
That I have that same. Oh, that's not the right one.
So are you heavy in the NFT space?
I am. I still am. You know.
Okay.
I've done a lot of NFTs. I've been in the art thing for a bit. So
I'm more of the collector. I'm horrible at flipping. Anytime I try to buy a decent amount of them, that project usually never takes off.
Yeah.
But hey, that's good. At least those ones that I'm not paying a whole lot of money for. But no, I'm kind of big on like what I was saying, you know, I'm big on protocols that provide me yield. And so like I'm a fan of like the Looks Rare and the X2Y2.
Yep.
Which both offer rewards in ETH, which I think is awesome. I still see a long-term longevity of NFTs. Now, maybe we're selling tokenized real estate in the future instead of you know, Bored Apes and other things. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind collecting fees on $500,000 houses being sold as NFTs in the future.
No, definitely. Well, we're starting to see that in like Proppy.
Yeah.
There's Parcel on Solana.
Nice.
And David, we had want to do just a quick reset. Shout out to everyone on Xenon, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, Telegram, YouTube channel number 2. We actually had, I don't know if he's going to be able to come and speak, but when we were talking government stuff, I done a shout out to him to come see if he could join. We were talking about politicians' trades being on chain. And so he is running for Senate in the US, Will Schweitzer. And so he's joined us on Twitter. I don't know if he can come up on stage because he sort of had not just trades, but campaign finances, and not the campaign finances of being able to donate. And Will, if I butcher this, I apologize. We talked late into the night, but the record keeping of donations being kept on chain.
That would be cool. Yeah.
So Will, if if you have time to come up, would love to have you and introduce you to David. And I want to hear if you have a moment how the campaign is running. And David, he's running against Gillibrand.
Where is he running at?
New York, U.S. Senate.
New York. Okay, so he's on the other opposite side of the United States of me.
Yes, completely opposite side of the United States. And so, yeah, I don't know if I'll see him tonight at the Coinbase event. Are you going to be there, Will? This is how when I first met Will, this is how I introduced. Oh, he's not going to be there tonight. He's got the thumbs down emoji. I think he's going to be. I think he can't join right now. I went to one of his campaign launch meetings just because I'm like, oh, a politician that's into crypto. Let's go see what you're about. And I get there and I'm sitting there waiting for my chance to talk to him and stuff like that. And then join the circle, of conversation. My first words to him is, "Your Twitter game sucks." I think those are the first words that I said to him, and I apologize, Will.
Hey, in all fairness, that means he's probably actually working on policy and other things important.
So when you're a U.S. senator or in the next phase, and you're like, yeah, there's this guy Taco. His first words to me was, "Your Twitter game, your social media game sucks." No, it's done out of love.
Right. Well, I'm fortunate and happy to say that Kevin Kiley, who's over in Congress and representing California, one of their districts, we actually hosted a panel discussion where we talked about crypto with him, and and had that publicly there, and it was pretty awesome. And so it was awesome to say that we were a part of his political campaign.
Yeah. Nice.
And then educate a congressman on crypto.
And it's so interesting, like how much there seems to be either not enough information or weird information, or I'm like, did you get your information from JenniferHatesCrypto.com?
Right. Yeah. Like misinformation.
Yeah. And so when I find politicians that are they don't even have to be fluent, but they understand it, I'm like, cool. I like that. Let's see what you're about on the rest of the things, because I can't just say I'm going to go vote for everyone that's pro Bitcoin or pro blockchain, because I don't know what the rest of your policy looks like. Yeah. So and there's the thought that we see Bobby Kennedy running, and he wants to back the U.S. dollar with partially by Bitcoin.
Yeah, I like that. I think we're not quite there yet. I think BlackRock's ETF will probably help us get there faster.
Yeah.
But I think it's stages. But I think it's promise, and I think it's a discussion that people need to start having. So yeah, only time will tell.
Yeah, I know the Federal Register, so I think it's just eminent. The SEC is playing the waiting game on this, to
Well,
lay out the entire, what's the word I'm thinking of? Um, it's waiting to showcase. Um, we're going to wait the whole 75 days before we approve this, or it gets approved automatically, if I remember right, being told. So they're either going to just let it get slide in without vetoing it, or like they'll wait till the last second to approve it, so that they can say we've done all of our homework and dotted all of our I's, crossed all of our T's. I think one of the things that they're going to do, I think that they're going to just allow it to come into play. And then the reason why is they're like, oh, well, that way they can challenge it later. We never actually approved this. It got in on a technicality, and this is what we find wrong with it.
And that's regards to what?
With the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, no. So here's the thing. So a little insight from our neck of the woods, right?
Yeah.
California is working on a bill called AB 39, which is in regards to the licensing of those who are managing digital financial assets on behalf of California residents.
Yeah.
I've had the chance to actually have some correspondence with a guy named Michael, who's actually working on, drafting the bill, and had some conversations, because my biggest thing is, leading a local Bitcoin and crypto meetup group. I'm big on DeFi and wanting to make sure that we have our rights to be able to do liquidity pools, and, ensuring that, we have custody of our own assets and whatnot. So I'm always asking regards to questions on that. And so it's been fun to see that. And but if that bill goes through as of right now, that it goes into effect in 2025.
Okay.
And I see, obviously that kind of falls in line with if BlackRock does an ETF, and you can absolutely see the writing on the wall where everything is going. And I'm absolutely interested in seeing where that license goes, and potentially getting that license at some point, or working with whoever holds those licenses, because this is my space.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to see that there's also another bill out there for dealing with ATMs, crypto and ATMs in California. There's another bill out there dealing with junior college education on crypto. And then there was also, I think there was another one as well, in regards to not DAOs, but they have a different name for them now. And I'm totally spacing, and I don't have that paperwork in front of me. But they're basically trying to form an organization, structure that it would be similar to a DAO, but something where they can have people actually be accountable. So there's actually a lot of regulatory policy in play right now that's being developed with crypto in California right now, which is kind of fascinating to watch and be participate.
Well, California, they have they put their DMV records, their car titles, on chain with Tezos.
Well, and Santa Cruz is actually doing stuff records too on a blockchain.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some progress over here in California, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I think there's just so many cool things coming out that it's amazing.
But it's still early, man. It is still so early, and it's funny. I originally kind of got heavy into Bitcoin back in 2020, and I remember talking to a bank CEO and saying, "Hey, what do you guys think about Bitcoin?" He's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do I think about Bitcoin? Like, what is it? I'm like, oh my God, like, okay, these guys have no clue yet. And this stuff is going to rock their world in the next 3 to 4 years.
Oh man, it's crazy to see that.
Yeah.
And these are the people that we trust with our money.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe the common person.
Yeah.
I don't trust.
Well, okay. These are the people we're supposed to trust with our money.
Right? Yeah.
These are
but yet when we have politicians, and people speaking on behalf of the government that don't understand inflation, and how inflation, in expanding the our monetary policy, or currency supply, and debasing our underlying value over time. With the fact where we were talking earlier of that rule of 72, where, your purchasing power is gone every 24, 25 years, like like they act ignorant as if they don't understand that. And I'm like, how do you not understand that and be in the position that you are? And really what I think it comes down to is if they admittedly realized and admitted to the public that, oh, by the way, with inflation, we're stealing your value and your wealth, you're committing fraud. Because anytime you're lying to the public and they lose money or property, you're acting on fraud, and literally they're committing fraud. So they have to act stupid intentionally, because you can't be sued if you're negligent and just don't know, right? But the thing is these people have to know this, and so it's like, why do we have these idiots acting like they don't know this? And it's likely because they don't want to be in trouble for it, is my opinion. And I know that's kind of a harsh opinion, but
so ignorance has been proven time and time again to not be a defense.
Well, they sure seem to use it though.
But they use it only when it benefits them. You didn't pay your taxes because you didn't know you were supposed to pay taxes on that. That is not a defense.
No.
We didn't know that this was going to lose money. Then is a defense. And so like you say, it's this double standard of holding people accountable.
Yeah.
But when everything's sort of on chain, and that's sort of where we have this idea with what's going on with Hex. This is provable or unprovable on innocence or guilt. It can be proven on chain.
Oh yeah.
And I've sat through a little bit, through the OA addresses to look through Arkham and stuff like that. Arkham Intelligence, I love it. If you need a referral code for it, I just need your email, and it's amazing. Or I think I can I got a link now I can hand out so people can get into Arkham and stuff. So but I got approached by an agency that does on-chain analytics for like the CFTC. They want to sit and talk with a guy named Taco. I'm like,
that's nice.
Heck yeah. Woohoo. Who would, and on a Tuesday, nonetheless.
Yeah.
So I think we're moving in the right direction.
Well, I think so.
Surely.
And it's not to speak back on the government, right? There's a lot of things that I think that are being done that are in the plan and in the works that are just not told to the public, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like to hope that crypto is part of that plan. And it's kind of funny because I'm a Bitcoiner at heart. But I think there's a lot of Bitcoiners that don't understand it, right? Yeah. and the thing is honestly, like, the system we have right now is actually really good for Bitcoin, because that's why Bitcoin's price goes up, is because you have a fixed supply of something, and you have an essentially infinite amount of dollars that continue to be expanded, and those dollars will continue to move into Bitcoin and buy Bitcoin and push its price up. It's all about understanding supply versus demand, and understanding what happens when you constrain supply, but you have constant demand over time. Right. And so it's the hard part is most people don't understand the game. They don't understand inflation, and they don't understand why assets go up. Right. And one of my favorite tools is which is not crypto based, but is, TradingView is looking at, used for technical analysis and all that, is taking like assets, any asset, you name it, and dividing it by the M2SL, which is the money supply. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because you can see bubbles in various markets, and you can see where money moves from one market to the next, and you can see, how money flows, and the fact that, everything is with the expansion of, goes with the expansion and contraction of the dollar. And we've seen that in crypto. We've seen dollars exit crypto, and we basically deflate like a balloon. When those dollars come back in, everything inflates back up. And it's all about liquidity,
Yeah.
So being able to see it all on chain is awesome.
So you touched on a good thing. Yes.
Yeah.
The one, I want to talk about TradingView for a second. government. Those in DeFi seem to take like a very love them or hate them approach. I think it's either they're pro blockchain or they're not, and I don't care about anything else that they have on their platform. I don't think that that's a very good outlook, because they might not be pro blockchain, but they might be pro tech, or they might be pro something else I'm for,
Yeah.
And,
Well, I think most of them are pro profit, right? And I think
yeah.
there's a lot of disruption in DeFi that they don't necessarily want the public to have, I think. Now, personally, I think that a lot of DeFi will actually be set aside more for the wealthy. Because like if you're going to borrow against your liquidity, your ETH, and you have to be over collateralized 110%, most people aren't going to be able to purchase enough ETH to take out and be able to afford to take a sizable loan.
Yeah.
I think that once the wealthy, like those that are millionaires in the United States, start seeing and understanding DeFi, and it becomes easier for the norm, like they're going to flock to the space. Because when your interest rates are 7%, 8% or higher in the future, right? Like who the heck doesn't want to pay a 0.5% origination fee and and have no interest on the loan? I mean, like if you already have assets, why would you not want to utilize those assets?
Yeah.
And here you have an asset with a fixed amount and you can borrow against this stuff. Like, like the TBDC that we were talking about earlier, right? There's a protocol and they're working on a protocol to be able to borrow against TBDC and ETH. And, we have Eric Voorhees that went out and bought a house last year through using liquidity against his ETH. And it's just like, you hear these stories, you're like, wow, like I'm paying on a home on a HELOC right now. And I'm debating, well, do I take a loan out against my ETH and pay off my HELOC? Because it'll save me money.
Yeah.
It's like, these are real questions that people in DeFi have.
I think as we see this expand, I think that it will lead to really cool things.
Oh, it will. Absolutely.
Like Savvy, I thought of this in two aspects. One, doing good, but then also not doing good. Let's say you put $1 million into Savvy and then you borrow against that, now you have 500K that is your FAFO, your fuck around and find out money, because it's being paid off. That loan's being paid off, with that interest. You could go buy a house. And in 10 years, if it's earning 10%, in 10 years, you have that house and you have that $1 million back.
Yeah.
And if you're paying 500K for a house, maybe you should, let's look at that at a different aspect. But like, you could buy a house for a lot cheaper than that.
Well, that's exactly what I'm looking at. And the thing is and it doesn't, we're still so early that, my biggest thing is seeing, how's this going to be in a year from now, 2 years from now, and the direction it's going. If it can maintain the direction that we're going, it's a beautiful future. Because not only that, like if you have the ability to save in, Bitcoin or ETH and put money away and accumulate, eventually you'll be able to utilize those assets and borrow against them for exactly what you're talking about, and these are things that the rich already do.
Yeah.
They have these portfolios and they borrow and they basically self-bank, right? And it's a whole nother step, another level of self-banking, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. And, debt is taxed, you're not taxed on debt.
Yeah. Well, this is why the banks obviously don't like this, on a lot of levels. Because, I mean, there'll always be a place for banks and currency.
Yeah.
But this obviously, hurts some of that.
So the idea on that too, this might bring a whole new function to, VCs in a way.
Yeah.
Even like, all right, so a project needs 300K. All right. Well, if that VC then puts 600K aside, they'll get that back. If you promise people, hey, I'm going to get you incentives plus your initial,
Well, that was huge in the early stages of DeFi, right? Because the thing is most of these protocols need liquidity, and liquidity is key. If you don't have liquidity in your protocol dies. And so that's where a lot of these VCs came in, is they would go in and deposit a large amount of stable coins to provide liquidity for people to borrow from, and then
Yep.
they would earn some platform token, and
Yep.
as a reward, and that they sold those off to receive. I don't know. I don't think that many of them sold them off. I think they were probably required it for a holding period, but
Yeah.
still, that they earn those, and then they get that capital back, and they're earning interest on it.
Yeah.
Some of the largest wallets that I follow, that's all they do is take stable coins and put it as liquidity.
Yeah. And I think that, like, copy trading, per se,
Yeah.
it can be, one of the easiest ways to sort of see what's going on, because you can see where people are making money.
Well, I will say that's why I like providing liquidity, because
Yep.
like 80% of traders fail.
Yep.
And I can benefit from that by providing liquidity and don't have to be the trader and get rocked
Yeah.
or lose funds,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think providing liquidity, one, you're supporting an ecosystem, but
Yeah.
also you're almost in a no win, no loss situation there, because it might be locked for a certain amount of time. But it's a way to passive income. And these are ways that we can earn this passive income. And so we see protocols that create all of these different things of like stakes, sacrifices, buy-ins. There's all of the, a word I've started using a lot more in a positive way is the word scheme, because I don't really know another way to say it. And so these, you could say, trading schemes, these deposit schemes, what is the overlying protocol? If you have faith in the protocol, then wouldn't you want to be a part of its growth and you benefit from it?
So the tokens that I look for the most are the ones that you provide liquidity, or you provide you by utilizing it, you earn the token. So I'm really not for ICOs, because anything that's an ICO or takes an initial token offering is usually going to get hit by the SEC.
Yeah.
So I'm usually looking for something where if I'm providing liquidity, you're being rewarded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sushi, there, as far as I remember, there was never an ICO. If you provided liquidity, you received the sushi token. I'm going to be curious to see how court cases go against that, because I think they have some issues they're dealing with right now. That was probably from their X sushi and the yield that were provided.
Yep.
So, but we'll see. But like tokens, tokens that were, you're rewarded for providing liquidity, I'm all for. And I'm hoping that the SEC realizes that, hey, if there was no token sale with it, that, I mean, how awesome would it be for Apple to give you Apple shares, for your buying Apple product, right?
Yeah.
Like that would never happen, right? But that's essentially what crypto's been doing. Like, hey, thanks for using our product. We're going to give you this token just for using our product. It has no promise. It has no value. We don't know what it's going to do, but we're going to give it to you anyways, Those are my favorite. And then some of them like looks where, hey, thanks for being a user of OpenSea. We're going to drop you all these looks tokens. And by the way, if you stake them with us, you're going to earn ETH because you're going to be part of the platform ownership. That's like awesome. Sweet. No token sale. And I think those are some of the best projects. The best things that have come in this space have been usually airdropped.
Yep.
Right. I mean, and it's just like, and I can't tell you between now and 2020 on how many airdrops I've received, whether it's been an NFT because of some NFT project I bought, like being a Bored Ape, to just using Ample and getting a fourth token or you name it, and it was just like, that's been awesome about this space. And in a time period for me where during COVID, where the government like really didn't help me out very much, like COVID kind of saved me. I mean, not COVID, but I mean, crypto saved me. In the communities that I built during that time period. It
seems like the COVID was a very strong period for people because they could actually do their own research.
Yeah.
Or they had the time to hop.
Our networks in crypto. I mean, we're all techies in this space.
Yeah.
So like, I have friends in the Netherlands now. I've got friends in New Zealand, Australia, you name it. Like the network is growing. It's huge just because of like everybody popped online.
Yeah. Well, and this is one of those weird, it was a weird thing said to me. I think it was, let's just say 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And this is these are things that I've gotten clearance to talk about and stuff like that. But I was managing for a handful of people a total of over $1 million in tokens.
Nice.
You know, and it and what was asked to me, someone asked me, why would anyone trust you with that? That's not real. Why would they trust someone named Taco? They don't know your real name. They don't, you know, that, you know, they don't even, you know, see your face. I'm like, I do videos every Taco Tuesday. You know, I've been taught they're like, that's not real money. And I'm like,
It's
well,
real money.
if it was mine, I would go buy you something with it, but it's not mine, so I can't buy you anything with it. But I can pay the bills with what I earn out of that, you know?
Yeah.
So that seems to be real. The electricity is real. That was paid for crypto.
You know, I've moved money from DeFi and into a bank account and had it there the next day, you know, and I've been so impressed with that like you can't tell me this stuff isn't real.
Oh yeah.
Like,
so, all right. You have your thoughts on Solana. You want to see what they're building. I am pro Solana just for like the NFT side of things, you know, like what Drip House is doing, just exposing artists. And, you know, I think I get a free NFT every day. You know,
nice.
Yes, it's handed out to 100,000 other people. But it still gets sent to me. You know, it comes usually with like an access to like a Discord, but I'm not joining any other Discords or, you know, something like that. But I get to see this. I get to see these different art things, you know, but there's a decaf protocol. It's a wallet and everything like that. In 5 minutes, I could have cash because I could send it free of charge to MoneyGram.
Really interesting. That what was that app?
That decaf.
Decaf, huh?
Yeah. Let's go find decaf real quick and put them on the screen.
Yeah, it's, you know, I really look forward to seeing how, I mean, right now, lately, we've been bombarded with AI art. But I look forward to seeing more real artists coming into the space. I've got friends who are like a graffiti artist. I'm a big fan of crypto voxels. I was excited that I was recently able to get a location on Origin Island, the original island.
Okay.
And so I was totally stoked about that. I'm still a believer in kind of early metaverse, and especially spaces like crypto voxels. And I've got plenty of locations in the voxel world. But like, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing more artists come in. But it's hard. It's hard to get your art out there, right? Like right now, my daughter has an NFT that we minted on what is it? What's it? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the site now. See, this is how bad.
What chain?
On Manifold.
Oh, Manifold.
On
okay.
Ethereum. So we launched an NFT on Manifold. We have it available for like a 30-day, you know, sale, and I'm the only one that's bought it. Obviously, got to support my daughter.
How much is she selling it for?
Like super cheap. Like I think like 0.005. So maybe like $10 or something like that. Not too much. Maybe we should have done a free one first just to get exposure out there.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can bring that up real quick. But the thing is it's so hard to find and search for NFTs on Manifold.
Yeah.
From just normal artists. Like I go to the site and I'm like, I can't figure out like how to go find it without knowing the link already. And so I'm like, well, if I'm having this trouble, like who the heck else is?
Yeah. And well, what it comes to is, you know, is the SEO, social media, you know, and different ways of doing it. So yeah, look at so this is what it was. Literally guy withdrew $100 USDC for $100 USD with absolutely zero fees using MoneyGram.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Cash withdraw.
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. I'll have to show that to a buddy of mine.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to go back to, you were talking community.
Yeah.
You know, Bored Ape holder, I remember being in Clubhouse when Blau was giving away apes.
Okay.
And when they were still minting out. I had two thoughts on it at the time. One, I'm a nobody. Justin wouldn't give, Blau wouldn't give one to me. There's so many people saying they want it, I wouldn't, and then, so I didn't raise my hand for that. I didn't mint one either, because I was like, this is just weird,
Yeah.
And, I had a lot of friends that did, and, fucking missed that train,
I got lucky because I simply had a friend say, "Hey, you should go buy one of these," and I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Just and I trusted him, and it ended up being a good decision.
Those are those late night calls, like, you should go buy this. Why? Just go do it. You're like, fuck. Where do I go get? How do where do I bridge to get to this? What
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that, really, without the apes, I don't know if the NFT space would be the same that it is today.
Yeah. Well, so I talk about this all the time. Like, talk about a community growth project.
Yeah.
And apes are on the forefront.
Yeah.
I don't know who the three guys were, but they took their 5 apes and they paid like 20 grand to put them on billboards.
That's pretty dope. Yeah.
And then that set the path of like apes realizing, like, I can go do shit with my IP.
Yeah.
I can, and like, how else are you going to foster community knowledge and awareness than Web 2? I don't even know. I'm going to call that Web 1 marketing, because literally it's just a read. It's not a read write. You're reading it as you're driving by at like anywhere from 10 to 75 miles per hour.
Yeah.
But now that's in everyone's head and it's used as a standard. There's so many different derivative ape projects. I know I'm in a handful of them even.
Well, that's really what brought me into the buying an ape. It was the whole concept that, it was like a franchise. Like, you own the rights to this image, this ape. And it's not a big deal that, okay, you own one ape, but it's the fact that there's a collective and everybody owns a piece of that collective of the ape, right? And they're all working towards a common good of hey, we're going to brand our ape.
Yeah.
And overall, that helps the overall Yugo brand, just because it gives exposure. The reason why McDonald's is because they're literally everywhere. And you see a McDonald's sign, hey, that's McDonald's. And it's that brand exposure that, if there's enough apes out there, even though they're unique and different, like, it's an ape. At least if you're in the space. Now, it's still discouraging that I still wear my Bored Ape occasionally, and people don't know what a Bored Ape is if they're not in crypto already.
Yeah.
And it would be funny because I would intentionally walk through a car show, right?
Yeah.
And this is back when the Bored Ape was like $250,000, and I have a skateboard where I have my Bored Ape on it, and I have my own shirt and whatnot, and I would walk around, and I'd have the guy that owns a Corvette telling me that, hey, one day I'll be able to afford a Corvette, as I'm holding my Bored Ape on my skateboard, walking around with the skateboard. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure someday I'll be able to afford that, bro. And so it's just, it's just a funny mind game, because these people don't realize, well, this guy has an asset. It's like, at the time, granted, it's only fallen down to like $60,000, but it's, at the time it was like 250,000. I'm like, yeah, okay.
I want to say it was like 2 months ago. I haven't even looked at floor prices,
Yeah.
But like mutants were down to like 4.8.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I was like, if I had any chance of getting into that community now, I was like, where, like, I scraped my brain
over that. Yeah.
And I was like, if I sold everything and got floor or even just floor, I still couldn't get in there. And I was like, that was like the closest, like, because
I
like,
wish, I should have bought another one at 4.
I was like, and I even saw one. I was like, wow, okay, that's not on floor, but it's just above. But that would be the guy that would be my entry point.
Yeah.
Later on that day, I saw someone tweet, they're like, I got in, I'm in the family. And I was like, oh my God, that is a clean mutant there. I was looking at that guy.
Yeah. I'm just like, I've got the Bored Ape watch.
Yeah.
I've recently minted the filter so that way I can use my Bored Ape as my AR spokesperson, face. I've made my own skateboards. I've made my own shirts. Eventually I want to turn them into brand. I've kind of, it's been a hard time because I've watched the price go down, right? And I kept on telling myself, well, hey, okay, maybe I'll sell at this point, and I've listed a few times and it hasn't sold. And I think I've actually come to the realization that I will probably never sell my Bored Ape.
Yeah.
And that's a hard decision just because like it was 250,000 at one time. And I remember the discussions with my wife and I talking about, hey, we could sell this off, pay off our house or buy a truck and whatnot. And there's things, but I'm just like, I'm like, the problem is if I sell this, I don't think I would be able to ever be able to buy it back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's, do you really want to sell something that you'll never be able to get again? And it's just like it, and I kind of put that up there with Bitcoin. And granted, it's an image on IPFS, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like we're in such a historical time period. And I gotta admit, I'm fortunate. I bought my ape, back when they were cheap.
Yeah.
I've already cashed out multiple times over.
ApeCoin, you were part of ApeCoin drop, right?
I've got the ApeCoin. I mean, I've got another side deed. I was part of the ApeCoin drop. Unfortunately, I sold my ApeCoin to pay taxes. I sold my dog, and I kind of regret that to this day. I sold my dog for 1 ETH.
Okay.
But I bought my Bored Ape for like 0.4 ETH. And I figured when I sold my dog for an ETH, I'm like, dude, I just doubled my money. I'm like, this is dope, right? I'm like, good,
and then benefits.
Yeah. And plus all his benefits. I mean, and I regret it. The only reason I sold my dog is, and I had a really good rare one too. He was like a robo dog with a pimp hat, and he looked totally cool. But I'm like, dude, this is just not my character.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I need a different dog if I'm gonna do that. And then unfortunately the floor went up, and I'm like, oh, I priced out of the dogs. Like, I'm not gonna buy a dog at this point. But like,
I think one of the dumbest things I sold, Pudgy Penguins, ROG, the rods.
oh, yeah. Oh, you sold it, or did you? Do you have a Pudgy Penguin?
I have a little Pudgy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. My biggest
in.
regret was not buying Cool Cats.
Okay.
I still want one kind of. I eye them every once in a while. The floor is down. I remember looking at it going, why do I want that basic artwork? I'm like that. I don't know if that'll ever take off.
I think one of the cool Alien Friends.
Alien Friends?
Yeah.
I might own an Alien Friend.
They're still around. I got an Evo. So like I think little Pudgies were cheap enough last year, June of last year, that I probably could have bought a Pudgy.
Okay.
But I saw this little Pudgy and I was like, oh my God, I love this red balloon dude. And if I had gone and looked, I would have found there is a Forever Pudgy, little Pudgy out there.
Well, the little Pudgy that you bought, it is part of the project, though, right?
Yes. Oh yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So that's all that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
So that was like me and the what do you call it? The Cool Cats, right? I didn't want to pay the full price for a Cool Cat at the time, and so what I ended up getting what are their foxes? They're dark foxes. The Shadow Wolf. Sorry, the Shadow Wolf. So I ended up getting a Shadow Wolf just so that way I could be part of that community.
Yeah.
But I mean, dude, I've got over 1,000 NFTs, and I haven't really been a flipper. Like that's just not
Yeah.
my style. I'm a collector. I see the historical value. I'm big on the art blocks. I've
I think there's some really cool stuff in the art blocks.
yeah.
If I can mint something, I try to go into the threes concept, mint in threes.
Okay. So you can flip one, keep one, and yeah.
And then if it skyrockets, payday.
So I'm like horrible on NFTs. I mean, literally, dude, I find projects and I wait for people to paper hand and I try to pick up off of floors when I flag projects. Right? Like, and I'm all about if I can use this for my own purposes. Like, I will admit, like recently, and I'll make shirts for these things. So recently, I bought into the Ape Hater Club.
Yeah.
Right. And it was a picture of an ape, and he's holding a sign that says haters can screenshot my NFT. and I made a shirt. I made a shirt that matches it, and I've worn that shirt, and literally people stop me to read it, and they like nod, like I understand that, like that's funny, right? And it's just like, yes, I can wear my Bored Ape shirt and not get a single comment, but then I wear a shirt that says that you can screenshot my NFT, and people will stop and be like, that's funny. And then I have a conversation with them about NFTs and crypto.
Yeah.
So it's like, I actually feel like that, wow, people are actually starting to understand this. And
well, so you've seen my backpack, right?
I don't know if I have. I don't think so I have.
Okay, hold on. Let me see. I need a battery pack that works. I have it right by my hand, so you can see how small my office is. Boom.
Lights up.
Here we go.
Oh, nice. That's pretty dope, bro.
So this and so I have I can put I can upload I think like 60 JPEGs to it,
Yeah.
And I only have like 24 random NFTs and going through it that I have going through at any time.
That's funny.
And
so
dope,
dude.
But like I wear this everywhere I go pretty much whenever I leave the house, and so many people, they're like, are those NFTs? Are those NFTs you own? And I'm like, yeah. And it starts conversations. One first about the backpack. They're like, can I put whatever I want on there? And I'm like, yeah, you can, Orbis 86, we sell them, but then like I only put the NFTs I own on it, because people were like, could you put my project up there? And I'm like, well, I have to have that NFT to do it, and they're like,
yeah,
well, go buy an NFT. And I was like, I don't even know who you are. What would you put a banana baller up there? And I was like, I don't even know what a banana baller is,
Yeah.
So,
no, there's so much stuff out there.
But yeah, no. So ROGs, I bought it at like 0.001 or something like that, and then I sold it at like 0.07, and then like 3 weeks later they were like 0.4 or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say at 0.07, did you make money even after gas?
I did. Because like, so I bought it at 0.007 or point, but I bought that ETH when that ETH was like $900.
Yeah. So I buy things either for historical purposes or for the vibe because of flashbacks. Like right now, like I don't know why, dude. I've bought these dorks, and these dorks. I paid more money in gas than I have buying them because I bought it like 3 or 4 times, right?
Yeah.
And each time I was like, oh, that's a cool one, and I'll buy like 3 at a time. And I'm looking at it because they're like less than like $1 or like $3, and yet I'm paying $15 in gas to buy 3 NFTs that are $1 each, $3 each. And I was going, oh my god, why did I just not sweep the floor originally and buy like 15? I would have saved myself so much money.
Oh man, no, we see a lot of cool tools coming out with NFTs. Yeah. Blur, however you feel about Blur.
I haven't played around Blur much, just because I'm such a fan of Looks Rare and X2Y2.
I like Looks Rare. I have Looks Rare token staked. Like that $100 is now not worth $100.
No, but at least it's earning some ETH.
Yeah. You know, at the 0.00002 ETH, I think. I was like, it will cost 10 times as much in gas to get it. And I want to touch on that for a sec, because we were talking about gas earlier.
Yeah.
But there's just so many cool analytic platforms putting out, because this is all on-chain data that you can, you know, we see all of this stuff. And you were talking about Apple shares on-chain and stuff like that. We see stuff like that coming up in the future, coming out with like Bitcoin's ETF. JP Morgan is building stuff like that to where you can tokenize.
Well, what's going to be beautiful is when we have like tokenized stocks, because imagine having like a liquidity pool with your Tesla stock, you know, paired with dollars, where, you know, where you're like all of a sudden dollar cost averaging out or dollar cost averaging in based off of volatility, and maybe you're earning fees on that Tesla stock.
Yeah.
You know, like that would be pretty dope.
Yeah, that would REITs as tokens.
Yeah.
Or NFTs, that would be interesting. I would love those dividends. You know, we see diamond assets being turned into NFTs. More physical assets are being turned into digital assets all the time. What they're really working on, I think, is securing the connection between a physical and a digital item.
Yeah, it's the Oracle, right? It's who's holding it in custody and all that stuff. Yeah, those are huge parts.
Yeah. And verifying ownership as well, I think, is one of the biggest things.
Well, that's what I think they're doing with some of that with physical art and stuff like that.
Yeah. And we see museums are starting to get on board with this as well. Even so I know this Lee Ritchie, she's actually working with the Vatican on putting pieces of art that the Vatican owns. You don't actually get to own the physical piece. You can have a digital representation of ownership. But the perks for owning that, you get to have a meeting with the Pope.
Huh. I'm looking for them to digitize their library on the blockchain. I think that would be badass.
Censorship is, as we start to see more and more censorship in physical education, blockchain, you get to see the original. And if you want to find derivatives of that original, you can, but you can always see that original as well.
Yeah.
You know, books.io is doing stuff like that. Books on chain. There's just so many cool ways. Music. Someone said, I saw this really funny tweet that music NFTs are going to be the next meta, you know, the next bull. And then it was like a video of someone holding a duck, flapping its legs, hitting a drum, and it was like music NFTs. And that was what it was going to.
That's funny. That is funny. No, I think, well, so here's the thing, like, so back to like metaverse, right? Like, I think like, even though people were buying metaverse, like there wasn't, you know, like Sandbox, like I don't think people were actually building out their metaverses right early. You know, I mean, like, I still think it's really early for metaverse, and I don't think really people understand the metaverse until they experience it in a VR setting. But that is what's always been
bigger push between VR and AR.
Well, so I mean, they can go together, right? Like, I mean, there's going to be a place for AR and having your 3D models in an AR setting, and I've played with that too. There's a project called Over the Reality that I like, and I've bought in a lot of locations associated with that. But I think there's a different place for both the AR and the VR. But like for me, the big thing is galleries, right? You know, I got into, I joke around because I got into first NFTs that I was in the metaverse. Decentraland was one of my first NFTs. And it was because it was property ownership and the idea of being able to own a billboard in a metaverse that people will 24/7 be able to walk around and go see, I thought was huge. And I could realize the advertising opportunity of that, and that if I can buy this once and own it forever, like it seems like a reasonably smart long-term investment. You know, you buy a billboard, you pay per the month, and the moment you're done paying, your billboard's gone. where I can buy a piece of virtual property as long as the game continues on. You have the benefit of advertising on there. And I have kids who play Roblox and Minecraft, and that's all they do, it seems like. And, if I could own a piece of property in that space that advertises, like, why not? And so I did that, and we started playing with like crypto voxels and on cyber and all these things, and realizing the potential of being able to go in these spaces on a VR headset. And, it's pretty awesome. And then, I at first in Decentraland, I bought a few NFTs just to decorate the walls of my metaverse. And then I started going, well, this is really cool. I can build these virtual galleries. And so now, I've got virtual galleries on pretty much every metaverse platform out there, from, on cyber to spatial to Decentraland to voxels to Sandbox.
Do you go and claim something everywhere that pops up because you don't know where it's going to be next?
What do you mean claim?
Like every place that has a chance for a metaverse, every new metaverse that pops up, do you go and claim a piece there?
I mean, I try to hold. I mean, as long as the project looks legit, I try to hold a parcel there.
Okay.
I'm always looking. One, I want to be on the street.
Yeah.
I want to be able to have exposure. And so there are different aspects. So here's the problem, though, right? The problem is metaverses now are becoming like exchanges. There's everybody is developing a metaverse, and everybody's claiming to be the metaverse. People that are different, trying different avenues. Some are trying to do the lease model. I personally like the ones that where you own the property. The problem is how do they maintain the servers? So there's still a lot of if and buts and and questions out there in regards to some of these. Like one of my favorite metaverses is actually The Man Who Sold the World. Their NFTs are on Ethereum, but their game is actually on Ethereum Classic. They have in-game tokens, right? And so what happens is, what's really cool is that, and they've thought a lot of this through. It's one guy, I think it's like one guy, maybe two, developing this game. They're on the slow path. They don't care. They're about building the game, right? What's awesome is you own these parcels, and in the middle of every parcel, there is a drip pool, right, where you can go up, interact with it, and claim a drip. And there's either one of like three tokens, one or two tokens. There's Bob, there's a Slag, and every property has a different amount. There's a dozen. There's like 10,000 properties, or almost like 9,000 something properties, and it's a duplicate of the world. And some polls, like a dozen polls, have 20 Bob. Majority of them have either between 0 to like 3, right? And so you run around collecting Bob. The Bob token is used to build your buildings, right?
Yeah.
The buildings that you build are actually built on chain, and are made on chain. And then you can actually lease out rooms in the building on chain. That's it right there. And then you can actually lease out floors of your building on chain to other people, and actually assign it to another wallet address. So everything is on chain on Ethereum Classic. Now, granted, I'm a fan of Ethereum Classic still, just because it's proof of work, right? And I believe in the proof of work thing. So the fact that this whole game economy is built on proof of work, to me, is pretty badass. Now, granted, so I own probably I think I own like a dozen properties on there. And it's fun. I mean, you're not going to make money off of it, right? The Bob token's not worth shit. Pay as much in gas as what it's worth, pretty much.
Yeah.
But it's just I like the vision, right? I like what they're building out, and they're doing it because they love blockchain. They love the space. That it has a governance token and stuff like that. But it's just it's
no hype, no moon, no speculation.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And that's why I love it. The other one I love is Crypto Voxels. Crypto Voxels is the same way. They made money in Crypto Voxels by selling property. They actually, invested it, and so they've got money to like continue building. I like these projects that I think are long term, and and they don't give a fuck about making money, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're okay. They're about building product. And to me, that's awesome, right? Because there's so many things out there right now that are all about, oh, how much money can we make off of this? Oh, let's drop another NFT so we can make money. You know, let's sell this to the public. And it's just like, no, like the projects that are actually building, I'm like totally down with. And I'm like, dude, this is dope.
I man, I had so much ETC at one point, because I had, you know, I got the ETH airdrop from the fork, and then I just sort of farmed it out and just sort of I quit doing stuff with it and I just held it, you know, because it was, you know, and it was like, think about like 2 years ago, like during it when it hit its heyday, you know, I sold a lot of it, and then like early last year I sold the majority of the rest of it, you know. But it, like you said, it, you know, it's still proof of work. You know, and you know, we had ETH POW, you know, even and
I tried that. I really wanted to like that, and I got screwed in some liquidity pools or some things on there.
yeah, you're like, okay, like there, no more blocks are happening, you know. We can't move forward, so you know, it's you know, it's just it's crazy. So we have gone for a while. I want to thank you for Dave. Like this is we should do this more often. You know, I do see in my what's happening, cancel Uniswap is trending. You know, and that's probably, I'm going to guess, because of them geolocating, blocking hex transactions. And
Uniswap started doing that on their face, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, and so
I hate seeing that in the space.
You know, well, see, this is the thing that I don't like about it. There's no notification about it. It's just unsupported asset, but the contract's still there. They don't want to go forward out and say, hey, this is being blocked or anything like that. You know,
that's what's so beautiful about this space, right? That it's all immutable smart contracts, and as long as you know how to operate with them, you can do that. I mean, I was in DeFi protocols that were, you know, a year or two old. The front ends went down, you know, but you just go on chain, you find your transaction history, and then you find the old contract, and then you just go through, and you can, you know, it take a little more work, but you can connect to the contract and withdraw your funds and still recover stuff, which is pretty awesome.
I know. So I know there's a centralized exchange building out that wants to do that, to where there's a emergency witdraw function to where you can go to the contract and, you know, outside of the UI. And so one of the things that I sort of talked with them about is they wanted to incentivize people to do it so that people can learn how to do it. Like they'll give instructions on how to do it. We'll deposit like $10 into your account if you, you know, if you go and emergency withdraw from the contract, so you can learn how to do this. If that way anything ever goes bad, you know how to get your money back.
Yeah. No, that's pretty cool. No, that's
and I think incentivizing safety is pretty cool. I think.
Well, heaven forbid if Etherscan ever goes down, though.
Oh man. Yeah. Heaven forbid. There's enough block explorers for ETH there, just not as pretty.
Yeah.
You know, I was accused. Funny thing. I was accused of being a part owner or founder of Etherscan.
Wow, that's a proud title.
And I was like, no, that would be amazing. Like in my head, I was like, no, that would be amazing.
Can you let whoever owns it let them know that I'm part owner?
Yeah,
like that would be awesome. Like
when do I get some transaction? Some, you know.
Yeah. Do I get a piece of the fees?
Something, you know. Two things I wish would happen. I wish that like you know, delegate cash, you know, is great, because It's a lot cheaper contract calling. Or
What do you mean by delegate
revoke.cash.
cash?
Revoke.cash. Well,
Okay.
so there's delegate.cash and there's revoke.cash.
Okay.
Delegate is for delegating a hot wallet. You know, so you can interact, you can have a hot wallet that interacts with everything, but it has the power of your NFTs and your token holdings behind it, you know? So, but it doesn't put any of your assets at risk. And I want to talk on that if we can, because you're an ape holder and what you've done in that. But there's just, yeah. So gas stuff, sometimes I have to just tip my hat to scammers, and not necessarily scammers, but people that figure out how to game the system.
Yeah.
Do you know about Zen token? XEN?
Zen, not off the top of my head. I probably have that at some point, but not.
So it's a tradable token. You can go buy it on market, or you can go mint it into existence for gas cost. You know, it's
okay. I take that back. I do. I think I have some of that somewhere.
So like it's a proof of participation. So you have to go, and I guess you could say proof of work on your half, not proof of work on chain.
And then you stake it or something like that.
You can stake it if you want.
I think I did that last year and I completely forgot about it.
I go look for it. But it's, you have to go, it's 2 gas transactions. One, you have to make a transaction broadcast of how long you want to wait for.
Yeah.
And then 1 day to, when it first started, it was like 100 days. I think it's up to 454 days if you were to go start a new stake now.
I think I staked it out to a year or something like that.
And then you have to do another transaction, gas transaction broadcast, to mint those tokens into existence.
Yeah.
And so someone had funds on FTX, and FTX was pays the gas fee to withdraw the on-chain gas fee. And so what they were doing is they made a contract that it would then go and batch mint Zen and cover the gas, and then it would batch mint the claim mint into existence. And they did it because this contract overestimated gas by like 500%. So it would hold the gas fee. And so someone would send the minuscule amount of like 0.00035 ETH to this contract. And the contract would estimate the gas at like 500x. And so, but because it's all done via contract, FTX would pay that. And then it minted these tokens into existence. And I'm like, this person just got these tokens for free. They weren't minted into existence for free. They were paid for, but they got FTX to cover that for them.
Wow.
Things like that are because it did a gas estimation. I'm like, I wish you used your knowledge for good, because that was
right. Versus exploits.
Yeah.
Well, that was the sad part. Like Compound last year, I think it was last year. They had this bug because they updated something, right? And all of a sudden the comp was being distributed at a higher rate to certain liquidity pools of stable coins. And so they went out to the crowd and were like, hey, we need to shut off temporarily the distribution of comp because it's distributing it too quick, and we're going to run through comp tokens. And the community voted no. We're like, no, it's all right. We're okay with it distributing fast. You can continue dumping it, right? And we'll receive it, but you can go fix the protocol, but we don't want you to stop in the meantime.
Yeah.
It's, unfortunately, incentives are misaligned towards the greedy, and it's sad that people take advantage of that.
Well, and I remember with that too, there was a piece on that. Oh my gosh, what was that? Compound then put out a thing like we might go after those that have received inadequate, and here's the address to send it back to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of funny.
That was pretty funny. Yeah, it was funny.
Same thing with Nomad. When Nomad got hacked, they were here's the white hat address to send back funds.
Well, you can't expect them to give money back because the thing is, it's all taxable, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm going to give you money. and after you're reliable for the taxes, you're going to give it back to me. I'm like, no. It's like, no.
Yeah. Well, see, and so like Nomad, I couldn't touch any of my Nomad assets. They got drained. But now, like, to get recompensated, they want me to KYC.
Yeah, that sucks.
And I'm like, I couldn't trust you with my assets on chain, yet you want me to trust you with
my data,
with my data.
Yeah.
Where it's on chain what was drained. I show proof that I own this wallet still. I didn't have to KYC to use you. Why do I have to be KYC to be recompensated by you?
Yeah.
So.
No. Yeah. I mean, I have been completely doxxed since the very beginning. I came into the crypto space, unfortunately, I think a lot of people come into this space not realizing it at first, I mean, I came to crypto in a public scene. And that's, and I've always been public. And now granted, I think that provides some trust, which is cool.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's, at times that, that makes me think and wonder.
This is like, I feel that if I had come in with my credit card name, even though I now have a credit card that says Player One Taco on it,
Nice.
or debit card, if I had come in, I would have stayed that way. But I came in as Player One,
which is good. Yeah.
And I've had Player One since 2008. And then when I went to Supercell and Clash of Clans, I was Player One Clash. And then when I went to EA and Command and Conquer Rivals, I was Player One Rival. And then when I went to Taco Cat, I became Player One Taco. And that was just like, this just fits. This is right. It's the weirdest name. Like this weird formula that made this, but this just fits. Player One Taco, and Taco for short, and it, so like the consistency, my face is out there. Yeah, I have this PFP that I've had that PFP. I, originally got it on, like when Gnosis launched, I think it was, or on KCC chain. So I've had it for about 4 years now.
So this is what's beautiful about this space, right? Is you have your profile, you have your .eth, right?
Yeah.
And people can actually go and check you out and find, your wallet and actually see that
how horrible my public wallet is.
Yeah. Well, but and like for me, it's, I think there's one of those perceptions out there that, we're probably all watching each other's wallets. We just don't say, right?
Yeah.
And there's like a respect that, I know what's in your wallet, but I'm not going to make it public, right? And I think there's a mutual respect between a lot of us in this space on that. And I know that I've earned respect by a lot of people because of the fact that, that wallets are transparent and public. And a lot of what I say, is backed by my wallet, right? If I say I'm holding something and I'm not dumping, they can go look and go wow, he actually does believe what he says and he does do what he says. And he, you can see the NFTs that I hold. I mean, it's, and unfortunately I've taught enough people on how to do some of this shit that it's probably not for my, my best interest, but it's, I'm kind of a leader, but I'm not, right? It's about teaching people and educating people in the space. So, and, I see a lot of potential, but then there's also definitely things that, people need to be warned about when being in the space.
Yeah. No, you see a lot of do what I do, not what I say type of thing.
Yeah. And that's the problem is I think too many people are following people who are just rugging and dumping. And the sad part is some of these people that are rugging and dumping, I have to imagine that they do have other wallets that they're making trades through that aren't known, right?
Yeah.
And which is kind of the scary and sad part.
Yeah. We see, I have a hot wallet that's tied to my wallet that I go and try new protocols out first with, because I know that my wallet is watched, you
Oh
know?
yeah. Yeah, no,
Um,
for sure.
and I don't want to go make a dumb decision and someone else think that I'm making a good choice and get wrecked because of it.
Yeah.
So there is with the transparency, there's a bit of responsibility, I think, with it.
Yeah. No, there's definitely truth on that. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I can't imagine somebody following my wallet and buying NFTs because I buy an NFT. They would see my performance on my NFTs and be like, yeah, he's just a long-term holder on NFTs.
Well, so as an ape holder, people can see your ape. People
Yeah.
go find that, you know, one of the things I see a lot is you get airdrop NFTs that people then, you know, they're malicious, you
Yeah.
know, and it freaks people out because they think that if they interact with OpenSea, that it's going to get them wrecked. I'm like, no, OpenSea, if you stay in OpenSea, you're safe.
Well, so I will admit, most of my NFTs are actually like I very rarely ever mint an NFT
Yeah.
straight off a mint, and that's because unless you're going to go audit that smart contract, you don't know what's happened with that smart contract. You don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
Right. This is why I like sites like Manifold, where okay, Manifold is issuing the contract, so you can more or less trust it. Most of my NFTs are bought on secondary, either through OpenSea, LooksRare, or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
Where I can verify the contract, I can verify that somebody else has minted it. I can actually look at the project, and for me, it's like I would rather select my NFT and pick the character that I'm buying, because if I buy an NFT, it's usually me holding on to it long term, right?
Yeah.
Than just doing a random mint and then all of a sudden getting that one. We're like, oh man, I don't like the qualities of this one. Now I got to go buy another one.
Yeah. I think NFTs that are gifted to me.
Yeah.
I've never sold a single one of those.
Oh, I love them. Yeah.
What I tell people when they're like, oh, come mint my NFT. I'm like, you don't want me to mint your NFT because that means I'm just going to, 1.2x profit,
Yeah.
But like the gifts, like those are the ones that like bring me into communities and like they're
and this is one. I mean, it's nothing huge. It's not a huge one, right? But there's a project called Honey. And I'm gonna mention her project because I've loved how many things she has. Honey's NFT, right? And did you find it? Let's see. HUNNYS NFT. And it's just one of those random NFTs that I bought. That one right there, Honey's NFT. I bought one of these and I was an OG, right?
Yeah.
She has literally dropped over 30 different like NFTs to my wallet. 30 to 40. I think it's like 4. I think it's actually closer to 40.
Yeah.
And every month she's pretty much done a different character and dropped it to the OGs.
Nice.
And so I've got this collection of just all these OGs, and like I love that. And I've done multiple tweets where, hey, I appreciate this because I actually appreciate the art and it's cool. And I have a gallery. I have multiple galleries in crypto voxels, and I put some of her pieces up in there. Like, so that's a drop right there.
Yeah.
And like it's so cool to get these just random drops. And it's just like the art that keeps giving, and it's just like to me it's awesome.
Yeah, stuff like that is amazing, because that shows I don't know what the word is. It shows appreciation, but it shows like how easy like you have directly into someone's wallet.
Yeah.
To show gratitude.
Yeah, it was the future of advertising. The thing is, I bought my first one and I sold it, and then I bought another one, going, well, I still want one of these, but she's been dropping stuff, and for me, it's not about the money, but and hopefully she's making money on it. But the thing is I just think it's cool the fact that that there's people out there doing this, and so it's like, whenever I get a new drop, I like to tweet out the new drop to show what was dropped, just because. So it's
Yeah.
But
Nice.
yeah, it's been pretty cool. It's been pretty cool. I mean, she's got so many cool characters and whatnot.
When I see such a huge drop in floor price on that,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, someone got scammed. You know?
On the wallet, yeah, because that
Yeah.
one's lower than the rest.
Oh, it
Yeah,
is, yeah, by like 3x. I'm like, oh, someone's just doing a you know, that's one of
a
those
flip because their wallet got rugged. Yeah,
yeah, you know, that's where you might want to buy it for someone and then like hold on to it, like, hey,
you
what
want to buy
happened?
it back? Yeah, here's what I
Yeah.
paid.
So, man, that's you know, but it's nice, you know. I what we're able to. So there's another platform.
And she has a I think a Twitch stream too. I think she has a Twitch stream. So I mean, she's got a small community and whatnot.
Yeah,
And it's cool. It's
nice.
I don't buy projects to try to flip and make money.
Yeah,
I'm probably the last person to do that. But I buy projects because I like it and I like what they're doing.
yeah.
And I like art.
Art is one of those cool things, you know. I think like I got dropped. Let's see here.
Dude, I've got so many drops in my wall. So and I do appreciate all the artists that drop.
Yeah, and well, I you know, being an ape, everyone wants to drop something in your wallet, hoping that you like it. You know.
I don't know if I'm that fortunate. I don't think I make my ape as public. I mean,
Yeah.
he's on my banner, but like you actually have to go find me and find my ape if you actually want to find it.
Yeah.
So I don't get nearly as many drops as some of the other apes probably.
Yeah. The alter eagles, dented feels. That's another one that I think is sort of dented feels is. Man.
Yeah, so there's a lot of unrecognized NFTs are out there where there's some really good artists that just don't get noticed as much.
Yeah.
That is actually a really cool piece.
Yeah, the dented field. So this, I met this artist at De La Soul Child. I met him at Canvas 3.0. It's like an OpenSea's physical NFT space, art gallery.
Nice.
in the Oculus here in New York, and it you know, and they were doing an art exhibit for this new platform, SwapX. And SwapX like allows artists to upload different layers, transparent layers, and then it automatically will merge them into their NFT, so they don't have to code those assets, those traits.
Really? So
Yeah.
SwapX is it .io or something like that? Will help you build your NFTs.
Yeah. So
wow, I wonder what the gas is on that.
SwapX. Yeah. So SWOPX.com.
SOOPX. Okay.
Yep.
I will have to take a look at that one. That sounds pretty cool.
There we go. We'll tag you there.
Sweet. No, there's like, I know a buddy. I have a buddy who's he does graffiti art, and I have this spot called that I'm a partner in called the Maidennet Art Gallery, right over in Crypto Voxels, and it's a really dope gallery, and I have his artwork in there, and his artwork in real life actually sells for quite a bit. And so I kind of did a partnership with him where there's a mall in my area that he painted basically a graffiti mural on the side of a parking garage that's 3 stories tall.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, dude, I could duplicate this in the metaverse. Right. And so I literally went out the next day, bought a property in Crypto Voxels, and took his art and threw it up on the side of that. And so he actually minted an NFT. We, did a deal, and I bought the NFT off of him. So I own this NFT of this mural that is actually in real life. There's a real life version of it, but I own the NFT version of it, and we have it on the outside of this building. And he's got like 4 or 5 other NFTs that he's minted or 101s, and he hasn't sold them at all. And I'm just like, dude, like people don't recognize, like, he's actually selling these, real paintings for quite a bit of money, and yet the NFT version's here and nobody's bought it or offered it yet.
It is crazy.
Yeah, it is.
You know, I just yeah. Man, David, we need to make this a regular thing.
Well, I'm around sometimes.
Yeah. I man, this has been I can talk on this stuff like all the time.
Yeah, me too.
You know,
All day long, bro. All day long.
yeah. Well, you know, I don't know. Well, I don't know how smart it will be to do it, but you know, I'll be driving. I'm driving from New York to Denver, and so I'm gonna be
We'll
be doing a marathon TacoBytes. You know, in and out of service.
Yeah.
You know, we'll be in TacoBytes as long as we're in service, type of thing. But or I might just do a quick TacoBytes and then focus on the road. Probably going to do that for safety.
Yeah. When's that trip? You're doing that too?
This coming up, I think around the 11th to the 13th. Yeah. So I'm gonna be in Denver by the 13th, and then head down to Dallas. So it's either Dallas and then back to New York, or it's gonna be like Dallas, Arizona, LA, back to Austin, maybe
That's
to Vegas.
A lot of time on the road, man.
Yeah. I put like 70,000 miles on my car last year.
Jeez.
Traversed the United States. I think I've driven back and forth like maybe 6 or 7 times this last year.
Yeah. No, I look forward to seeing this space through it, flourish more. It would be nice to find ways to actually, make a solid full-time income out of this space.
Yeah. There's just so many social media platforms to that in a way it almost shards liquidity.
Yeah.
Shards attention.
Yeah.
You know. So
yeah, which makes it hard. I mean, I was a big fan of Clubhouse for the 2 or 3 years, and just there's so much education that we were giving away, for free, and just the knowledge. And unfortunately, with the crash of FTX and stuff like that, it feels like a lot of people left this space, and there's still a lot of the rumors that it's a scam. Fortunately for me, between FTX, Celsius, and Voyager, I was fortunate enough to be in DeFi the whole time. And I'm sitting there going, what are you guys talking about? DeFi's great.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it would be good to bring a lot of those people who got scared out of crypto back into crypto to see what it's really about.
Yeah. So 2 things I love to do as I travel around the world. I onboard people in the easiest way possible. Coinbase and crypto.com.
Yep.
Coinbase, they don't even have to attach their bank accounts to it. They just have to KYC like a normal banking app.
Yeah.
And then they can start doing the learn and earns.
Yep. For sure.
And I don't get anything out of that, Yep. I think I get like $10 if they do buy $100 worth of crypto once they do attach. But I talked with Coinbase. I have 82 referrals.
Wow.
Nice. Where they've done is do the learn and earn.
That's nice.
Well,
even with my son, I have my son, and I wanted him to experience a little bit of DeFi and how easy it really was. And, you you got to figure out what chain you're going to be on, because you need enough gas to use those chains, whether it's Arbitrum, Optimism, Avalanche, or Polygon. You got to figure out what the gas token is, right? Whether it's ETH, AVAX, or Polygon, or whatever, Matic. And so, but I showed my son that, hey, look, $10 for gas is enough on a lot of these side chains. So, figure out which one you want to be on. And he did that. And then I said, okay, get some USDC, right? USDC, it's basically the dollar. And then I literally showed him how to send that to a wallet, so he got comfortable sending it to a hardware wallet. And then from there, going to Beefy and single-sidedly depositing with just USDC. And how easy it is, and now granted, it's a slow grower, but I wanted him to do that with $10-15 just so that way he could see over time on how it works. And I think, I think when people actually start to realize the technology and how easy and seamless that is, that it's tough the first time. It takes 30 minutes to do it the first time. But when you get smooth with it, it's so much quicker, and it's crazy, when
Yeah.
especially when you get way more heavily involved in it, and there's a comfort knowing that, hey, I have control over some of my own assets.
Yeah.
So
Just a quick reset, and then I want to go on to something that you said about your kid. But shout out to everyone on Xenon, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. Like, subscribe, comment, all of the aboves, or don't. This is TacoBytes, your daily bite of Degen, episode 350. Degen talks with David. This has been an amazing space, amazing time. I'm actually I want to close down a lot of this and bring it back, because sometimes this can be a bit of a distraction. Just us, for a second, as we get close this out, thanks so much for joining. We've covered a lot today,
we have.
It's funny how we're rolling back to where we started, beefy, and your kids. We were sharing a space last night, like a round table space, and it was sort of funny. This guy's like, "Oh, you can Google me." Now, he's a serious player, so yeah, you can, and you can see what he's done and stuff like that. And I sort of laughed, because I'm like, if you Google me, Player One Taco, I'll show up on like Coin Market Cap, I'll show up on like Arbitrum Token, Solana Token. You can go find Taco, everywhere. That just sort of a funny thing. But there's so many chains out there. Neo. I love doing stuff on Neo here and there. Non-EVM chains, I think give a lot of flexibility to do other things that, programming wise, but EVM is sort of the staple of where to start.
Yeah.
So have you created any social tokens as like an allowance for your kids?
I haven't yet, just because I'm really hesitant on that type of aspect. I have a buddy that he created his own token and to give it out as like an allowance or an internal bartering system.
Yeah.
Not, I have quite a few kids. I've gotten one of them into, actually two of them own metaverse spaces. Just because I want them to play with those kind of metaverses instead of playing Roblox all the time.
Yeah.
One's minting NFTs, the other one's just investing in some beefy. I have one kid who right now doesn't care about crypto. And so it's, I'm hesitant on how much exposure I give my kids, knowing how traceable this is.
Mm-hmm.
And then just minting tokens. So yeah, it's hard to say. Not sure how much I'm into the whole having your own personal token, because that seems kind of like slavery if it's tied to you and your time.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure on that 100% yet.
I've seen a couple people do it for that trading aspect, and then they made like liquidity pools for their kids on layer 2s, so that their kid could then go trade it, and if they're the only two that have it, it's sort of funny. And then they've been like, and then just some random person comes and buys their token.
That's kind of funny.
It's sort of hilarious in that aspect.
So I'm the whole SEC thing and tokens, I'm kind of hesitant on. I was early in Clubhouse when there was a token that was launched because of a club, and it was just a harmless token that got dropped to everybody in the club, and then some idiot had to proceed with creating a liquidity pool on it, which now then created potential security issues that people were concerned about, and it actually got Cointelegraph or something like that, and so it kind of led down this rabbit hole, and then everybody kind of parted ways because of it.
Yeah.
So yeah. There's some things that are better left unminted.
Yeah. there's so many crazy things there. So I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say as we
Okay.
wrap this up.
Yeah.
But words of advice, or what is on your radar?
What is on my radar? So my whole one, I like I like I like metaverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think there may be something there. It's hard to say what it's going to evolve into. My whole thing is I see my kids play Roblox, right? And my son's looking, going, "Hey, Dad, look, I'm doing this activity and it's paying me 1,000,000 tokens." He's essentially getting these tokens for free, and it lets him buy in-game assets. And I'm like realizing, trying to educate him that anything that you're getting for free without work has no value associated with it, because that
Yeah.
means everybody else can get it for free, right? And so, realistically, I'm hoping in crypto that we can educate the populace on money, because I think understanding inflation and understanding what good money, real money is, hard money is important. That comes from my Bitcoin side of it. But realistically, the biggest and most powerful utility I see in crypto and DeFi is the future power of being able to leverage and borrow against your crypto. When Michael Saylor talks about borrowing against your Bitcoin in an inflationary fiat that is being losing value over time against a superior asset that's appreciating in value,
Mm-hmm.
that is huge. And it's educating the masses that, hey, the faster you can get exposure to that and hold good assets, the more powerful that is going to be towards you, because of the fact that we are in a system that has to continue to inflate currency because of how the system is built. And so when you realize that, and you can realize that you can hold good assets that will go up in value, and someday you may be able to borrow against those, and you see the financial products like liquidity that are being built out here, that is huge. And I see that 5-10 years down the road, right? And I'm hoping someday that that's how I buy my if someday if I buy a ranch, I'm hoping that's how I pay for my ranch, and be able to go step on stage and be like, yeah, I bought a ranch, and how did I do that? I used DeFi, and my interest rate's zero, and people be like, just like, what the fuck, But like, I already explained to people, like, hey, what's your interest rate right now? Like, what would you rather have? Is 0%, maybe a 0.5% origination fee, or would you rather be paying 7%?
Yeah.
And people will no, duh. Well, then, like, do you realize there's a way to work towards this, right? And so it's that, and it's having, hopefully, a better future, and educating people along the way. And I think the more people we educate, the more people we bring into the space. And I constantly fight with people, that there's people out there in the financial communities who say, well, Bitcoin has no intrinsic value, crypto has no intrinsic value. And you look at it going, wait, I have a protocol that's literally paying me for staking it, and I'm earning fees off the transaction fees. There's intrinsic value with that. Not only that, I'm discussing more as Bitcoin as being an insurance policy. If you're a millionaire and you have $1 million in the bank where you're only insured up to $250,000 of it, and there's not enough in FDIC, savings to pay out all bank failures, like, you need a hedge. And so I look at Bitcoin as, okay, what if, Bitcoin is an insurance policy? Your insurance policy doesn't have intrinsic value. An insurance policy is an insurance policy for a worst case scenario. And at 1% cost, if you have $1 million, you just put 1% of your money in to an insurance policy to hedge the rest of your dollars. Like, that makes sense to me, and I've been in Bitcoin long enough, because of the exposure from a friend, that I've seen just $1 in Bitcoin turn to like $2,000 over time.
Yep.
And so it's just like, it took me a long time to grasp that, but the thing is like, being in it long enough, you start, when you start understanding inflation and the currency, and you start understanding money, you end up having an entire different perspective by being in the crypto space. And I think it's the ability to share that with others, so that way others can learn and learn how to preserve their value, rather than having their value debased and diminished over time.
Yeah. No, at this point in my life, I'm like, why would you just want $1 million in the bank when you can have $1 million worth of Bitcoin, especially at these prices? But, people go with where they're comfortable, because it doesn't make sense to them that they should be getting anything over that 0.01% their bank is giving them.
Well, so there was a great skewness test that BlackRock, I guess, that got leaked. I don't know if it was intentionally leaked or what. That was a skewness test of saying how much Bitcoin they should own, and it was actually a pretty high amount.
Yeah.
But if somebody has bonds right now, bonds are paying a great interest rate, right? Mm-hmm. The problem is the underlying value of those bonds is cash, and that cash is losing value from inflation. So I see Bitcoin as a perfect hedge to bonds. If you have bonds and you're collecting that 5%, and you also hold Bitcoin to offset the inflation of the underlying dollar value of your bonds, that's a perfect combination.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And so I think what's going to happen is we're going to get on this next cycle with BlackRock creating an ETF. People are going to be educated on that. And I think that's going to be the selling pitch on this next cycle. And I'm like bullish. And right now, people still have a chance to front run it, as far as I'm concerned, right? We've been front running the banks, for the last how many years, and so far we're benefiting from it.
Yeah.
and there's only so much time left, I think.
Yeah, no. And it's, when the regulatory compliance is set, rules are made so people know what products that they've been building they can actually use, because JP Morgan, Onyx, they have 7 variations of it. Jeez. Because they don't know which one will meet regulatory compliance, so they're building out 7 different products.
Yeah,
they have 18 different projects within each of those that they're doing various things because they don't know which one will fit the box. And as soon as that sandbox is built, they'll know how they can play. And that's when we'll start to see it really come forward, And all of a sudden, all of these talking heads that crypto is a scam, blockchain is a scam, nothing but rugs,
but the problem is then that's going to be token gated and it's going to be controlled by the banking system.
Yep.
And I personally prefer the decentralized method where we, the people, determine what money is.
Yeah. Well, we see how, people turn that off. Like, do you remember Citicoin?
No, is that the one out of Florida?
So it's in Florida, Denver, New York.
Okay.
And there's a couple other cities. The DAO votes which cities come online once they get enough nodes and validators. Okay. At one point, at its high point, value, it was like $7 million that got. So out of every transaction, a piece of each token goes into a city vault for the city to have.
Interesting.
And voted on for the projects, that the people that participate think it should go towards. New York had like $7.2 million that the DAO community voted to be used for roads and mental health. And New York said, no, we're not going to touch it. One of the pieces that came out, we're not going to be told how to spend our money.
Yeah, even the cities don't want to be told how to spend their money.
And I'm like, wait, you're being given $7 million to be used for roads and mental health, and you choose not to touch that. I'm like, that's just,
yeah,
we'll get there.
No, it's time. The biggest thing is liquidity. That affects everything.
We had I had his name is Matt. And he is the founder of Matt Tuttle. He is the founder and creator of the SGIM, the Inverse Kramer ETF.
Yeah.
And he also made like a D-ARC, an inverse of Cathie Wood's ARC investment. He even made a long gym, and he thinks that the BlackRock, to quote him, he's like, Larry Fink wouldn't have put in the application if he knew it wasn't going to get approved.
Yeah. I have that feeling too. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, so now, granted, I own a little bit of few shares of BlackRock.
Okay.
And
I feel that that's a good bet.
and I own that because I know their involvement with Circle and
Yep.
USDC.
Yep.
You know, I'm aware of BlackRock's Aladdin and how they basically manage, you know, risk for governments all over the world.
Yep.
And an advisor Fed, right? And
Yep.
I personally think USDC is our stable coin, our CBDC that we're going to eventually use. I think it was a black eye in the face when it depegged because of, you know, Silicon Valley Bank.
Yep.
But like, you know, I'm bullish on those aspects of BlackRock and where they're going with this, and I, you know, and seeing their involvements, and that is what kind of gives me some concern over Ethereum and proof of stake, just because I believe the system can be captured. But the thing is, you know, we have a banking system that is more or less captured now, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, and it hasn't been a bad thing.
Yeah.
As long as you understand the game and you understand how the system is played, right?
Yep.
It's just playing within the system, and so
When the USDC depegged, you know, I bought as much as I could, and I saw a lot of people that were,
wish I thought of that.
you know, recommended trade your ETH for USDC, get it, you know, because there's the peg piece, you'll get the dollar value of, you know, but we saw everyone transferring to like USDT. You
Well,
know,
so I hold some LUSD,
yeah,
and because it's backed by, you know, by ETH, and so unfortunately I can't say that I own a lot of stable coins,
yeah,
just because it's like holding dollars.
yeah,
And I would rather always hold assets over dollars. And if I, unfortunately, sometimes that results in having to sell assets too.
yeah.
So, but
No, hey, you know, but it was one of those things to where I was thinking, like people with USDC that were like, I need to sell. I'm like, don't sell. You're going to be selling at a loss.
I feel bad for those people that sold at a loss,
You
because
know,
there were people panicking out of it.
yeah. And we saw that, and I was like, so two things are going to happen. And you know, after going through Luna, I was like, the switch is going to either be flipped, and you just have to wait for Monday morning. Obviously, it was Sunday morning that it was announced, you know, repegging. But you know, so people had one day, you know, just over 24 hours, 36 hours of craziness. And we saw how much the market shifted in that. And I was like, BlackRock's either going to, you know, they're not going to let this depeg, or they're going to let it depeg, and they're like, they will do an airdrop for this weird token that they've had on the backhand. Hey, we actually have this product that
Yeah, well, I mean,
and I thought that was going to be their introduction of CBDCs outside of USDC.
No, I think USDC is it, because they have to have. I mean, you have to have something you've already been testing for a long time, and USDC has been tested for such a long time. But I think that's just the easy go-to. I mean, they'll probably do something else, but I mean, you look at USDC and how many platforms it is, everywhere from Stellar to, I think they're putting on XRP now, to,
Yep.
you know, on Ripple. I mean, so you look at how many platforms USDC is on. It's just like, it makes the obvious conclusion of my thought, especially with BlackRock behind it.
And you have USDC. They have USDC. They have Eurocoin.
Well, so
and
I've had this speculation, right?
yeah,
And you have you have all these U.S. Treasury bonds, right?
yeah,
That are circulating globally. All these other countries hold treasuries, and we can't afford for them to dump the treasuries because there's no buyers, right?
yeah,
And so my my game theory mind, right, comes up with this, and I have to figure that somebody smarter than me has already thought of this, but when you're holding USDC, you're essentially holding a derivative of the dollar, right?
yeah,
Dollars are being deposited with Circle. BlackRock is managing those. All right. If we onboard everybody into USDC and get everybody using the derivative of the dollar, that all of a sudden gives BlackRock a huge amount of actual dollars to buy up all these treasuries that other countries want to sell off.
yeah.
And now they buy up the treasuries with the dollars that we just given them, to then back them up with, you know, U.S. government debt. And
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's the perfect way to provide liquidity to be able to buy up all these bonds that nobody wants. It's just onboard everybody into USDC, give everybody the derivative, and then we take the real dollars and go buy up the, you know, the assets.
The U.S. will no longer be owned by another country, but by a company.
Well, it'll be owned by the company, but all back, technically, I guess, I mean, we should be the ones that own it because
Yeah.
it's our dollars holding it. We're just holding a derivative exposure to our underlying dollar assets that are bought up all these assets. I mean, I have to figure that somebody's thought of that through somewhere, but I don't know.
That'll be interesting. Yeah, no, it will be. I don't like calling this coin. Whoever thought of this coin, well, so it's the USDC version in Japan.
Yeah.
So it's being called, and I apologize to everyone, Jap coin. I don't think they thought that one through.
Well, they'll try some of this stuff off in another country, I think, first before they do it here.
Yeah, and so we see that coming up. It's some interesting stuff there.
Yeah.
I do want to, do a quick shout out to everyone on Xenon. I see a couple of those messages there. GM to design, John Moore, Troy. Thank you so much for joining us and everything like that. And then I think we have Jeremy the Webbs, and we have Momo joined us as well on stage. I saw a hand for a second. I didn't know if they had a question for you, David. You taking questions?
I think we've covered a lot, though. I don't know what else we might we missed.
Momo or Jeremy?
I missed it, so start over. No.
Yeah, right. 3 hours in. Thanks, bud. I think there might be a replay somewhere.
Melis, my darling, how are you? Long time.
I'm good. I graduated my school. I'm having a vacation. I'm taking care of my father.
For a reunion for someone else.
Oh.
Oh yeah, it is. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. No.
What was the conversation? I can contribute. Hi, Jeremy. I love you.
Oh, I love.
Is this the Jeremy I know? We love you too.
Yes,
Jeremy.
it is. It is the Jeremy you know. Yeah.
Jeremy is the shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rankin, I saw Stoop Dog on the Today Show this morning, and he was wearing ape wear.
Right? Nice, sweet.
What's that mean?
That's good.
He's wearing his bored ape on his jumpsuit.
No way.
That's nice. It hasn't died yet. I love that.
Bored ape right now.
Started to take a picture of it, and then I put that.
I laughed at it, but it was not a long moment. Hi guys, I'm from Turkey, and I love the decentralized world, and I'm here to contribute. I'm not here to harm.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay. You're okay. Well, unfortunately, you're contributing as we are getting ready to close down.
I saw Jeremy, and I'm drunk, and I saw Jeremy. I'm like, oh my God, I missed him so much.
I do not recommend doing any DeFi while drunk.
No, probably not.
I have partaken in degenning while distracted, degenning while driving, degenning while sleep deprived. I have not partaken in degenning while drunk.
Degenning? No.
But it has usually led to wreckness.
Hey, voxels, crypto voxels is probably safe for her.
Crypto voxels is safe.
Yep. Take a nice walk through crypto voxels. Do not drive anywhere.
Yeah.
Just making unwise purchases while inebriated. That's what he's saying. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Okay. Well, if you say I should not do it, I will not do it. But always make your own research. Do your own research.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. Nothing here today is financial advice at all.
He has been my friend for such a long time. He has been in my bad times, not in my good times. So.
All right.
Well, hope you have some good times soon.
Yeah. So as we wrap this up, David, we just sort of went over final thoughts. Yeah. I put everyone on the spot. 10 seconds, words of wisdom.
10 seconds, words of wisdom.
Yeah.
If you're gonna play in the space, learn to watch wallets.
Middle in the middle. Little.
Learn to watch wallets.
I would say, yeah, if you're gonna be in DeFi, I think the best way is to learn is spend more time learning.
Little in the middle.
And and I think if using DBank,
Yep.
don't rush into things. Don't have a fear of missing out type of thing. Like if I tell somebody, if I have a friend who's getting new into crypto, I say, first of all, figure out how much money you're willing to commit to crypto, right?
Yep.
Only use money that you are not afraid of losing, that you won't need in 6 months to a year, and if it was 100% gone, that you wouldn't worry about it, because too many people jump into space risking too much, right? I don't believe in leverage or debt. I don't like it. But take that amount of money, and like right now, like I say, if you're going to put in, like, let's say $1,000, take 10% and buy Bitcoin, like right now. Right. Don't ape in, don't buy all of it at once.
To support this idea.
Hold on. And so the reason I say that is because the best way to start to understand something is to have a little bit of skin in the game. Right.
Yeah.
And if you put 10% in right now, just so you have skin in the game, you're going to pay attention to it way more closely. I agree with that. And then as you learn, inch yourself in more further. As you learn, as your wisdom gains knowledge, get more comfortable to come in, And then not only that, if you're starting to, actually build, and most people, it's probably best just to stay on Coinbase at first. And then as they build, get yourself a hardware wallet and learn how to become comfortable using a hardware wallet and storing your crypto for yourself. Yeah. Because that's what this space is all about. I get people go, oh yeah, I do crypto. Oh yeah, I'm on Coinbase. I'm like, no, you're not really in crypto. You're holding a token on a platform like a Robinhood account, and you're not really in crypto until you're holding your own assets and managing your own assets. Then you're in crypto, in my opinion. Otherwise, you're just trading tokens on a screen.
I agree with that. One of the things where when people are like, well, how much should I start in? I suggest, if the thing that I usually say is, however many cups of times you visit Starbucks each week, don't go one time, because if you're still going to Starbucks, then you're spending extra money. But go to Starbucks one less time this week and use that money.
Yeah, $5. Yeah, that's perfect. That's
and
all
as long as you're not spending it somewhere else, it's true value. Of it could be gone because you were going to be drinking it in 20 minutes anyways. Now it's yours, it's immutable, and it's there forever until you choose to do something with it.
And right there on that, when I was in my 20s, right, I had this huge moment that was a learning lesson in life. And I was working for a construction company, right? And this guy was having a health issue and had to go. And he, at the time, he was only making minimum wage, right? And he was working out in the field. And I said, dude, I know you're not making a whole lot, making minimum wage, working for us. I'm like, are you going to be okay taking time off for leave for this operation? He laughed. He's all, well, just between you and I, I'm already a millionaire. I'm only working for this construction company because I want to learn how to build my own house. And I might as well make some money while doing it. You wouldn't realize, I spent my life as a mechanic, and you wouldn't be surprised with the cost if putting away the cost of a pack of cigarettes every week actually compounds to if you just invest it. And this is what he had been doing his whole entire life. Like since he was like his 18s, he would just take the amount of money about a pack of cigarettes and invest it every week. And eventually it compounded enough that he was able to turn that money over to an investment firm, that it grew even more. And so he was already a millionaire. And I was like, that is the most fucking awesome thing that I've ever heard in my entire life, that the guy was working because he wanted to go build his own fucking house. And I was like, if that wasn't a life lesson right there, that it's just the little bits of saving a little bit every week that compound over time. Yeah. And it's just like, that's so powerful. And so just by teaching people to be able to do that, like you're saying, $5 a cup of coffee a week, like they will compound it, and if they can put it into something good over time, they will grow and reap the benefits of it.
Yeah.
So amen to that, bro.
DCA, dollar cost averaging, compounding is just yay.
So like what Warren Buffett says, like what the seventh or eighth wonder of the world is compound interest.
Yeah.
And like the rate at which it grows, people can't fathom compounding numbers at exponential rates.
Well, so since you brought up Warren Buffett. I think so. Berkshire Hathaway A shares before they split off and made a B share.
Yep.
If someone had, it is the only outperforming fund out there with over 23% growth year over year, I think is what it is. Someone had put in $1,000 in like it was either 1973 or 1963. When you're talking about compounding, that is a very big difference. But if that $1,000 had been put in, it would be worth $33 million today.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And that's where I look at crypto tokens that have a fixed supply, and if you go look at like Apple, right? Like the thing is a lot of these stocks out there, they dilute the shares to reduce the price and then they buy it back at a cheaper price. And so that way they accumulate their percentage of ownership over the total supply that's out there. Yep. And this is where I'm looking at tokens. If they have a fixed supply and all of a sudden that fixed supply, once it's fully been distributed, there's no more, like you can't have dilutions. Like if there's no dilutions of these tokens and there's a fixed supply, like that's huge, because once it's distributed, it's distributed.
Do you think that we'll get to a point? So Litecoin just had its halving.
Yeah.
Bitcoin and that just finished. That was yesterday. Yep. And rewards went from like 12 to like 6.
Okay.
Bitcoin has its halving next year, where it goes from like 6 to 3.7, I think. And technically, if we follow the same mathematical formula, the supply won't be exhausted until 2148. Do you think the difficulty will get to a point that the entire supply is going to be created?
What do you mean the difficulty will get to the point? Because the difficulty adjusts. The difficulty adjusts, though.
Yeah, the difficulty adjusts, and the hash power. The hash power. Right now, we're seeing a huge growth in hash power.
Okay.
But do you think that having reward, or do you think that because you can sort of say the baseline for creating a Bitcoin, that's the benchmark price that will always be? No more. When Bitcoin was below production cost, I remember when Bitcoin, it was cheaper to buy Bitcoin than it was to mine it, CPU mine it.
Yeah.
Yet we still CPU mined it because it was better to create it and have it than go buy it. Do you think?
Well, I don't think that sticks around very long, because what happens is if people aren't profitable mining, then they start shutting down the machines, right? Which then
going elsewhere.
Reduces,
New chains.
And then it reduces the difficulty level, and then it becomes price. The thing is it's all about the liquidity and the demand for it.
Yeah.
Right. If there's no demand and there's so every market. So this is why I was like, I'll go back to earlier on, I was talking about the M2SL, the money supply. Right. Mm-hmm. And realistically, it's all about attention. Yeah. Right. And attention is seen by the amount of capital that goes towards something.
Yeah.
And whatever has the most amount of attention receives the most amount of capital. And this is how we end up getting bubbles and stuff like that. And so that's really what it comes down to. And if there's no attention to something and there's no utility to something, then the attention will lead to it, and then all capital exits out of it.
Do you? So I'm probably gonna say the wrong law here, but I think it's Metcalfe's law. Okay. The more holders will equate to more volume. Which will create more value versus less holders.
Yeah, I think that's similar. Yeah, and essentially, I would agree with that. The more people that are holding it, the more people that are transacting on it, the more people that are holding it, you get what's called that network effect, right?
Yep.
And that network effect builds value.
Yeah.
And some people would say it's actually the information on the network. And this is why Ethereum right now has the value that it has, is because of the amount of information that is being transacted on Ethereum's chain. Yeah. Which is huge.
Do you think? So the amount of transactions, I think, really showcases, like I talk to protocols all the time. You would rather have 1 million users with $1 than one user with $1 million.
And, absolutely.
and because that person, the something shiny pops up and they want to go buy it, it's gone. But
well, you have real transaction volume. If you have 1 million users with $1, you're actually having real transaction volume.
Yeah.
Problem is, if you're the only person that has $1 million on that network, you can't do anything with it, because the moment you dump, you wreck yourself.
So do you think that like as more and more protocols come into effect, I don't want to say transactions have been poisoned, because people have learned from Bitcoin and other tokens that were given out for free or for minimum cost that they're just collecting and holding and waiting.
What happens is it becomes dangerous. One of the biggest things that I'm kind of fearful of in this space is all of these second layer chains, because I think we don't want to scale them out too fast. It's what happens is right now we're seeing more of a broad approach versus an actual layered approach, which I think is dangerous. If you look at like the TCP/IP stack, right, the 7-layer protocol stack, where you have a hardware layer and you have a software layer and you have all these different stacks on top, right? That really should be how a blockchain should operate, right? Where we have different layers, one top of another. Right now, we're seeing Ethereum spread not upwards but horizontally, with like so many second layer solutions. And the problem is as you do that, you start spreading all that liquidity out. And you spread the liquidity out too far where it's too thin. And the number one issue that any protocol, whether it be USDC, whether it be Terra Luna, has had is because of a lack of liquidity. Because if all of a sudden somebody dumps a large amount of USDC and there's a lack of liquidity, it will depeg the token. I don't care what token it is. It's all about liquidity and the depth of that liquidity. Yeah. And so to be more resilient, you need a deeper amount of liquidity. And we are actually diluting that liquidity and spreading it out when we have multiple chains. And so when I'm looking at LUSD and Liquidity and these other protocols, that's one of my biggest arguments is, well, you realize by sending all this liquidity across all these different bridges, you're actually putting all these people who have loans out on Liquidity at risk, because if all of a sudden ETH starts dropping and they need to pay off these ETH loans really quickly, and all of a sudden there's not enough liquidity in the pool because it was bridged across all these chains, you're going to have a whole bunch of liquidations and people are going to get screwed because of that. Now, we actually took advantage of this. I mean, not me personally. I have friends who, like, pointing this out, there was forks of Liquidity, and it was like, bro, look, they're allowing you to take loans out on DAI and swapping it for the debt type on ETH and Bitcoin, and then being able to deposit those debt types into ETH and Bitcoin. And because you were buying the debt, people could no longer buy that debt to pay off their loans, and you were forcing liquidations. And this stuff was happening because of how this one protocol was built.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, you could see what happens when there's not enough liquidity. Like, people get forced.
You can't buy back the debt. You can't
buy back the debt. You get forced into liquidations.
Yeah.
And so I see some of these same issues with bridging liquidity across chain going, do you guys really realize what you guys are actually creating? And I would say that half the people creating this stuff probably don't have enough money where they're actually doing this stuff themselves to see what the implications are long term.
Yeah.
So, I've seen enough of it.
One of the things I do in protocols like that is I sort of do something like that, but I do degen boxing.
Yeah.
Waiting for, I deposit an asset, borrow another asset, deposit that asset
back into it.
Okay. Yeah. And then I just wrap,
Yeah.
And so then, if that asset goes down by a cent, however many times I wrapped that, you
unwrap it. Yeah. You just hope that you're not over leveraged on it when it crashes.
And so you're almost working for something to short, in that aspect to profit from it. And so, but
I like being the other side. I like being the bank. You bring in the stable coins, you provide the stability and the liquidity. So when the liquidations happen, you're the one buying it up.
Yeah. I like that. But what I do with that is, because I then you can take $10 and you can wrap it so many times. Yeah. I'm then, the deposit, doubles.
Yeah. You get the money multiplier effect.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah.
So it's
what's cool your favorite protocol to do that on right now?
OVIX.
OVIX, huh?
Yeah. zero VIX, and margin file. So one's on Polygon and one's on Solana.
Got it. Yeah, no, I'm always amazed that there's so many new applications and protocols like coming out. The good ones all of a sudden end up seeming to be geo blocked for some reason.
Yeah,
but there's so many great ones out there.
So I have a funny story with Ovix. I met them in Amsterdam last year.
Nice.
And they were launching on Polygon and everything like that. And they're one of the things that I didn't like about them, but I really liked about them was that their yield was in that 0.4 to like 7% range. And I was like, that is sustainable. I don't want that. I want some degen things, But like I talked with their lead analyst and their BD and their founder and stuff like that, and they really liked what I had going, and what I was doing. And they're like, hey, they looked at it, like we were talking around this table, and they looked at each other and they nodded. And I was like, oh, this is the secret conversation where they say they don't want to deal with anything from someone named Taco. And they looked at me and they're like, hey, we have this position that we created that we haven't filled, and we think it, we think you might be for that fit, Yeah. And it was their lead degen is what the role was. It was like it was it was literally the title was degen. And I was like, okay, and what would this do? And I was like, I would love that position. I could do that, as they find out what they do with their go-go protocol and, things to ape into quickly and move out, front running the whole time. And they're like, unfortunately, they're like, we're based out of Germany. So if we open the position, we have to open it up to the public, and you have to make you stand out, And so I then, I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so I, so I had to stand out to meet submission requirements to submit my resume. I made a bunch of like $5 and $10 USDC QR codes,
Okay.
And I then, traveled, around London and Amsterdam, finding other degens that were either just getting into crypto or in crypto, but, heavy on Twitter. And I was like, I wanted some proof of work out of you. I'm going to give you $5 to $10 in crypto, but I need you to follow me and follow this protocol. And then I need you to tweet at them that you met Player One Taco, and they should hire Player One Taco as their head degen, because he bribed me $10 USDC to say so. And and it got to the point to where they're like, we want your application. And so this is how funky I was at the time, or am. I then took a picture of my hand in my lap, doing that little circle thing that, if you look at, you get punched twice, and I turned it into a PDF, and, and I wrote, I wrote on it. I was like, 2 for looking. And I submitted that as my resume. They loved it.
Funny. That's funny.
Unfortunately, they found a researcher that was in Germany and stuff like that, beat me out, that had a bunch of letters after their name. And so I was like, well, I got .eth,
Well, yeah, I was going to ask, dude, bro, like, where's your Philand? Do you know what Philand is?
I don't.
Dude, okay, so PHILAND.xyz.
Okay, wait.
PHILAND.xyz. You basically, it's like your like a virtual like resume.
Oh, okay.
You connect your wallet. It shows you all of the it gives you little tokens for every DeFi thing that you've done. And then you can put it on a piece of land as like your trophy of what you've completed in DeFi.
Okay.
And it's like almost like a virtual resume of, hey, look, this is what I've done. Like I've held a vault of so much USDC. I've been in Aave and done this much. I've voted on this, like.
Okay.
And you can look up other people's. You can look up the leaderboard and see what people are, what they're doing. And
all right, I might have to.
It's pretty dope. It's pretty dope. It costs some gas to do and whatnot, and download the pieces, but
yeah, I'm down for this. I'll check this out. The one that I haven't done that people always ask me was, what is your Degen score?
Right. Yeah. The old, was it the blue or alpha?
Degen Cafe,
Oh, the Degen Cafe. That's a new one, I think. I'm gonna go look. Hold on.
And I was
Degen Cafe.
I think so.
No, that's not it.
Let's see here.
Because there used to be Atomic Blue a long time ago. Yeah. It was Atomic Blue, and I had a Degen score.
It's degenscore.com.
Degenscore.com.
Yeah, and they have Beacon and stuff like that. And so I was like, well, are you really a Degen if you need to go score yourself?
No, but it's fun. It's fun.
It is.
I know when they had Alpha Blue back in 2020, I think I was ranked at like a 300, which was pretty high. I was a Chad.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like this land because it's kind of like a virtual resume where you can have a piece of land that represents like pretty much what you've done in DeFi.
Yeah. I'll have to look at that. I'll have fun with that. And I always send people on Galaxy and Gitcoin verification and stuff like that. For like Sybil stuff, I do like classifying myself as a human, I guess. So benefits from more rewards, hopefully. And so there's some really cool stuff there. But this has been a great time. We've gone like an hour longer than we were planning. Yeah, we've been saying goodbye for like an hour now.
I know, right?
So it's been fun. It is. We'll have to do this again. I want to thank everyone on Xenon for joining us. Everyone there, everyone on Telegram, everyone on Twitch, Discord, YouTube 2. LinkedIn and those that have joined us via Twitter for this fly on the wall. There's the video that's on Twitter right now and the Jumbotron. I'm hoping next time when I come on, I'll be able to use my Bored Ape. Hey, yeah, definitely. There's some cool stuff. You got the NFT filter. There is, where someone builds something for you. There's the Snapchat camera filter that you could put your ape into, and it would do that for you too.
Interesting.
And people were doing that. Snapchat disabled that camera extension, but people forked it.
Oh, nice.
And so but I would love to talk to an ape to ape. So.
Do you have an ape?
Not anymore. I had a company one, and the company had bought two.
Gotcha.
And I was part of my long-term plan was to get full ownership of it. Project is still around, but they ended up reneging on a bunch of things. And
this space is tough. There's been a lot of people hitting this space, especially with the downturn on the market.
Yeah, and this is the thing that sucks is they're still building something amazing.
Yeah.
So, but it's just interesting. So, we'll see. I think there will be a lot of things coming up in the future that's going to be amazing. And
hopefully we can catch up in person again sometime. It was a good at the last LA blockchain summit that we met at.
Yeah. That was good. Are you coming to Permissionless?
I probably not. I don't get out of the house often.
Oh man. All right.
Too many kids to wrangle at my house.
Bring the kids.
Yeah, no, with how many kids I got, it doesn't really work well.
I've
got sons I got to put into college too.
I love seeing kids at blockchain conferences.
Yeah.
Seeing families is really cool. You know, I don't know. But yeah, so we're going to end this the way we always do. We got your words of wisdom and final thoughts. And so as I end every episode, I end with my final thoughts and words of wisdom. You know, be willing to take risks and learn. You know, there's a lot of, well, I'm gonna post out one link for User, which teaches you about blockchain, about Bitcoin. I'll throw my invite code in there, so you get 50 free sats. You need to collect 1 million sats to get a Bitcoin. But you know, it starts you on your journey, and it's free, and you get.
I think it's 100 million sats.
It's 100 million sats. Yes,
100 million sats.
You're right. It is 100 million sats. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking of something else. 100 million sats equal
nice.
one Bitcoin. I can't wait till 1 sat equals 1 Bitcoin. You know. We've sort of seen that with inscriptions.
Yeah. 1 sat per dollar.
Yeah. You know. So that'll be fun. But my words of wisdom are the same as I end every episode. A closed mouth cannot be fed, and you cannot feed a closed mouth. Meaning, if no one knows you're looking for opportunity cannot come a knocking. And if opportunity does come and you're not ready for it, it will keep on walking. And since you are up here, David, you get to join us for the best, worst knock joke on the face of the planet. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. TacoBytes, your daily bite of Degen, episode 350. 15 episodes and days until we hit a year, I think. We'll have to do a countdown to make sure that's right. But David, are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. Knock, knock.
Who's there?